Yeah, is this a new thing that we're trying out?
That's right.
That's weird. I'm a little confused. I'm a little concerned.
It's $10 to listen to me listen to me podcast. It's $15 to touch me when I podcast.
Welcome back, Screamers, to another episode where we breathe new life into the bowels of our souls. It's autumn, kind of. And with autumn, with the shortening of days and the changing color of leaves, with the rolling in of gray skies and cooler temperatures, also comes football. Yes, we've got some football movies for you. The cinematic gridirons of the best of times, all the right moves, Wildcats, and the program. We're also going to yell about the recently remade Speak No Evil.
So buckle up. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, it's a little hot, but coming in.
You're a little hot coming in.
Good point. It's a little warm outside.
It's fucking hot.
And it's been so. Yeah, and we had to fucking watch that piece of fucking shit.
Wait, let's jump into it.
Right. You want to read the synopsis
jump into
of this bullshit?
Sure. This is
James McAvoy pisses all over the screen, and then whatever these filmmakers, they completely
waving his dick around.
They misunderstand or they just didn't watch the original.
They must not have.
This is my husband, Ben.
Patrick Feld, this is my wife, Kira.
This is Agnes.
Has some trouble communicating. He can be a bit insecure.
Nice Vespa. Yeah, isn't she? You should try.
Can we?
I won't call the fun police if you don't.
Okay.
Io lo so che mi chiami anche da diversi fusi orari. Ieri siamo stati esagerati.
Back before I quit my practice. You're a lawyer. Doctor, listen, you have to come and visit. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah? Yeah. Done.
It's so quiet around here. Don't even have any neighbors.
Hey, you made it!
Welcome.
Ta-da!
You are VIP guests.
Just to remind you, I'm a vegetarian.
Our gift to you.
That is so...
Louise, doctor's orders.
Very good.
Settle in. I promise you guys, it could be a great weekend.
How long's it been?
17 years.
17 years. Wow.
You get less for murder.
Something's not right with him.
He has a condition. It makes it hard for him to communicate.
Sometimes it's okay to think things, but you can't actually say them. Oh, no.
Thank God there's a doctor in the house.
I'm not a doctor.
What?
But didn't you say you were a doctor?
Did I? Look at their faces. Of course I'm a bloody doctor.
Agnes, why don't you and Aunt show us the dance that you've been working on?
And what is wrong with you? Just feel the rhythm in your feet. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the one.
What is wrong with you? I want to pack up the car and I want to leave right now.
I'm just sad to see you go.
You're gonna go out there and be completely normal.
We've been pretending it's normal since we got here. Dad?
Remember that time you guys came to stay? You flipped out and tried to leave without saying goodbye?
Right, so here's the synopsis. A family is invited to spend a whole weekend in a lonely home in the countryside, but as the weekend progresses, they realize that a dark side lies within the family who invited them. I really, here's the thing. I don't fucking understand why this film needed to be remade. I don't know why we couldn't just leave it alone. I don't know why we had to put an American, quote unquote, an American spin on it. I don't get it. And then we just miss the fucking point. Completely. Everything they do, they just fucking undercut themselves at every turn.
I'm trying to equate it to something. Like if we took a great piece, not a great piece of art, and then just like turned it into. I mean, it's like I don't know, man. It's like putting Basquiat paintings on T-shirts and selling them on Etsy,
which
right?
is what we do.
Right, I know.
We not only on Etsy, but we just sell them like in stores.
Right. Like
It's
that's
like-
exactly what he would have wanted the entire time.
It's like Nirvana T-shirts and Urban Outfitters.
Right. It's so fucking. It's
We just missed it.
Right. I mean, this just reeks of like studio exec bullshit, like the worst of the worst, right? Where we're just like, why didn't they why didn't they ramp it up? Why wasn't the dad fighting back? Why wasn't McAvoy why wasn't the other dad more jacked? And like, why didn't he punch some shit and stab some shit?
And
like,
have a gun.
And like, what was the whole point of the first one where they just fucking tortured people for the last 30 minutes? What was that? There was no reason for it. Let's give them a reason.
Exactly. I have to tell you, and I will not name this critic's name because I am not going to speak fondly of them. I'm not a huge fan anyway, but there was a critic writing in a publication, which I shall not name, who said that this version was better
I've heard that too.
than the original.
I've heard
and
that
is
too.
the fucking dumbest thing in the world.
I've heard that one of the guys, that this was an easier sit. That this was
It's not supposed to fucking be easy. The whole point
Right,
of the original film was like the banality of evil, right?
right. Every step is wrong. Every step that they take away from the original, it's like it's weird. It's like there's just this weird, bizarre. Like you're seeing the original, right? I mean, beat for beat, it's pretty much, except for until they get to the last half hour. When this one inexplicably adds like 15 to 20 minutes on to the runtime.
Well, you have to have the battle. You have to have how are we gonna get away? How are we gonna? But here's the thing: they fuck up everything. So little girl loses Hoppy. Right? But
Right.
you know what? The father doesn't fucking find it this time. McAvoy's character, and I forget the other character's name, like in
Right,
the
it doesn't
original.
matter, right? Yeah.
Like the other dad finds it this time. The whole fucking point in the original was that the bad dad said, "You're heroic. I would not have done that."
Right.
Because then when they have to go back to get the fucking bunny when they try to escape, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. And it's not in the car. Like it's not like
Right.
everything, none of this makes sense. So yeah, we're jumping all over the place, but it's
fuck this,
it's hard. Right. So the original impetus for the story, right? With this milk toast in the original Danish version, this milk toast motherfucker who's never been assertive its entire life, who's had his life just happen to him, his wife, his kid. He hates it. He like talks about, like in the movie, he talks about where he sits there and he cries during an opera. So clearly, like he doesn't, like he has emotions and he has things that they're trying to break out of him, but he is on vacation, like he's surfed through life. Everything's been given to him, and it's easy, and he has a soft belly life, right? It's not like he's ever had to struggle at all.
And I think that's key.
Absolutely
right?
is.
That's key.
So we get to the American version. This guy's just a guy who had bad luck happen to him. He's relatively speaking, an alpha dude. Like, right? He took a job in England that his company went, and then COVID hit or whatever, and that was a downturn, and he got let go. He got let go. We find out with like 200,000
probably
pounds.
more than that because he hasn't worked in a while. So he said he got a generous severance package. So it was probably more than that. I mean, but yeah.
So the first film, you could argue that it's about that kind of the dangers of passive liberalism, right? Where there's there's no conviction. There's no need for conviction because these guys, this family can't stand up for themselves at all. Everything that they state is like this, that is, their principles, etc. It's all bullshit. It's all facade. They have no backing to it. And
which is why they give up in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole fucking point, is that they don't know what to do, right? When life doesn't just give them fucking apple pie. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to handle the lemons of this fucking, they're being squeezed in their goddamn
You're mixing
eyes.
your metaphors.
I know.
They don't know what to do with the ice cream to make apple pie a la mode, right?
So the father has never felt like he complains about team building exercises, and he feels, ineffectual because he can't decide where to go to dinner, and the only thing that he can rally against is these other tourists that only talk about cooking classes, which these people are perfectly fine. And the other family, the ones that actually end up being the in the cult, the killers, are nice. They're
charismatic.
Right, they're charismatic. And they're also not necessarily targeting this family. When they get to the Italian countryside, they stand up in front of everyone and say, "Hey, we apologize because we made some noise because we got here late, and we want to get to know all of you." Yeah. They're clearly fishing, and they're hunting. Right? Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And they're when they latch on to this group, this other family. You can see, especially as you watch it again, you can see where they're kind of poking to see if these people will actually fight back, if they're just who they think that they are. Mm-hmm. They give them every opportunity to stand up for themselves. When he asked her about, when he asked the wife about her being, a vegetarian, and he's like, "Why are you a vegetarian?" And then trying to prod her in this, and she has no standing for it. He doesn't like rub it in her face. This is just basically him, feeling them out. And then, when they go in and they start the really sort of like uncomfortable behavior, when they get called on it, they're all apologetic. They still want to make this a game, right? Mm-hmm. They still want to bring all this in. Everything that McAvoy does is to the back rows, right? I mean, it's so like he drags the fucking, from the very beginning, like we said, he finds the bunny, he drives her around on the Vespa, he drags the fucking thing around, the lounge chair, the
pool lounge,
and jumps into the pool. None of that fucking happens. Like, and
because the other character in the original version, he's charismatic, but he's not obnoxious.
Right. There's no reason. The way that this couple, the couple in the American version bond, is they hate the Danish couple who talks about the cooking courses, and they say, and so that couple, it's a weird Americanization of like now, because that couple is American. They're living in London and they're vacationing in Italy, but they're an American couple, and so is the other couple who lives, I guess, in Scotland, right, or the North Country or whatever. So
whatever they call it,
right. So
I thought it was Wales. I mean, that would make sense. They're weird people.
I'm kidding. They wouldn't be attracted to, or they wouldn't have any sort of reason to be attached to a group that says what they want, that kind of like has this American bravado or ugliness to them that just is like, that basically makes the Danish couple won't shut up about their cooking classes. They won't, they make them feel uncomfortable, so they leave. Yeah. And that guy's like, "Oh, that was genius what you did." Like when he basically asks the Danish couple about their wiping techniques, and it talks about poo, and of course they're offended, so they walk off. And he's like, "Oh, that was brilliant! I can't believe you did that. That was awesome." And that's it. Then they go their own separate ways. Right.
There's no other.
There's no.
That's all it takes for Scoot McNairy to be like enamored by another man.
So we have to have, and the father in the American version, we find out that his wife, when they moved to London, his wife was sexting someone that she was working with. So now he's a cuckold rather than just being a fucking pussy. I mean, I apologize for using that term, but just being that guy who's nothing, right?
Right. Because I mean, and to me, like, that is the strength of the original, is that these people just have a fucking boring bourgeois life. Right? It is just, they're stuck in this routine, and that is it. It's not bad, but there's nothing exciting. And then these people come along, and they are exciting, and that's when the guy's like, "Oh, I kind of want to be like that." But we have to give them marital problems. We have to give them all this other stuff. Oh, he lost his job. He can't find work. The headhunter didn't call back, or the headhunter said, "You don't have a job," and all this other shit. And it takes away the bite of all of this.
Right.
The whole thing is like we can look around at our own lives and go, oh shit, am I falling into this same trap? Right? Everything's fine, but is it?
Right. And you're absolutely right. That is the 100% genius of the other, because it makes everyone in the audience go, fuck, do I have convictions that are that are worthwhile?
Yeah. Am I just full of shit?
Right.
Right.
And
the answer is yes.
Right. And that whole thing about like you feel so ineffectual when push comes to shove, and when God damn, the fucking first movie is a brilliant piece of work. It's a brilliant metaphor that when life really gets tough and if you have nothing, you have no substance, it's going to fucking stone you to death.
Right.
That's the goddamn point.
That's the metaphor.
The whole thing. Speak no evil is not about the fucking kid with his fucking tongue cut off.
It's about what we don't say and when our voice is taken away. Right.
And we're given every opportunity to have some sort of substance. And in the Danish version, he's like, why did you do this to me? Because you fucking let me.
And we see that, him letting him do that throughout the entire film. Here, we just get McAvoy parroting it for no reason. It makes no...
He's so over the top in everything. And like every beat, like the beats in the car don't make sense. The beats in the restaurant don't make sense. All of it is completely, like I said, they take away everything that was meaningful in the first film. In the American version, Abel, which is not the kid's name in whatever, the young boy.
It's Ant.
Right, and Ant, and they're in Abel in this one.
Yeah.
Abel,
it's Ant in this one and Abel in the other one.
Right.
Oh, whatever.
I don't know. Who gives a shit?
Cares?
Tongueless boy.
Tongueless boy wonder.
Like he befriends Agnes or whatever her name is in I know that's the Danish version, but he befriends the young girl in this one. And like, so at some point the young girl would have said something. He's like, that boy in the first one is the epitome of what's going to happen to this group if they don't pay attention. It's not about him having his tongue cut off so he can't speak. In this one, he didn't need to have his tongue cut off. Well, I mean, yes, you did, because you didn't want him to know that he didn't speak English.
I was going to say, right.
But that's the only reason why they cut his tongue off, is because he didn't speak English. So he can't communicate. But he continues to show the little girl all of the bad shit. He's constantly trying to tell her what's up. At some point, the little girl would have said something to her parents saying, hey, this is fucked up, I want to leave. Yeah. Or like, hey, we should listen to the boy because he's got some shit to say even though he can't say it. They would have just fucking left. They would have just, and so that whole relationship makes no sense. That whole turn of events where the boy actually has agency and is not just this beaten down, captured animal doesn't make sense in this movie.
Nope.
And none of the beats make sense. They're boorish from the beginning. So when they're boorish in the restaurant and they're all over each other in the restaurant and they have a fake fellatio scene, which is fucking ridiculous. But who gives a shit at this point? That family's not going to be surprised by that.
I know. Like, why are they shocked at this point? They have seen it ever since they met them.
Right.
It is the same thing they've been doing the entire time.
They also didn't need to have that scene because the real thing that should have brought concern was when they started calculating the ages. Right. That was the point of that scene in the American. It's like these people who wrote this version of the script had no idea what they were doing, and then so again, like, okay, so we move forward and the little girl ends up, the first thing that makes them leave the cabin or leave the house is the little girl ends up in bed with the other family. But in the original version, we hear her crying out, and the mom she wants to get laid. She wants to get laid. So she's like tired of so she has a moment of selfishness that leads to this moment of guilt, which leads to this moment of horror that her daughter that she's neglected because she wanted to have sex is now in the bed of this naked man. So she grabs her daughter and just, we're going to fucking get out of here.
Which, to be fair, both of these young women, both of the girls in both films are insufferable kids.
Sure.
I mean,
yes. Yeah,
right. I mean, so like,
yes.
I want to make sure that we are saying that we approve of the mother's choice to have sex and let her, like, 11-year-old daughter cry with her stuffed rabbit. Okay. Like, it's fine.
Right.
But in this one, there's nothing. We don't hear the girl crying.
Yeah, right. We don't hear.
There's like an argument between they don't have sex. I mean, it's just like it doesn't. Right. None of that comes about.
Yeah, they don't have sex at all.
Again, it loses the power.
That was the whole thing. Is that where she was like, he's lucky if he gets it once a month, because when they were saying we do it every night, and then they argue with one another, and then it comes to the argument where they're like, That's when they start talking about the him being a cuckold essentially, and he saw a guy's dick on his wife's phone, etc. Which is supposed to be some sort of powerful moment in the movie, and like,
there's no powerful moment in this film.
So they leave. The same thing. The bunny is gone. So they come back, and then of course in this version. So in this version, the bunny, in the Danish version, the bunny is in the car all along. They could have just left, which is another brilliant moment of they should have just fucking stuck to their, here's the thing. When you're faced with this affront to your sensibilities, you have the right to fucking bounce, to get the fuck out of this situation. And you can't do it because your pride. It's not even about, he doesn't give a shit that his daughter's got, it's just his pride. He's already been given that moment of pride, so he can't let go of it. He returns to the house.
That's in the original.
That's in the original. That's what I'm saying. That's
right.
What I'm saying.
Right. Because this one's.
But in this one, Abel hides the bunny.
Right.
So they had to have gone back.
Right. But it's not. But he doesn't even go back. So he doesn't find the bunny in the beginning. Right. So in the original, he finds the dad finds the bunny in the beginning, and then the bad dad calls him heroic, and he remembers that. We know that as an audience, we're watching that. So when he stops and turns around, we're like, oh, of course, he wants to be heroic. He thinks this is what that hero dad would do.
Right. Now it's just about a shitty kid.
It's just right. And a stupid ass dad who can't, and parents who can't just say, you know what, fuck it, we're not going back there. I don't care. You have to deal with it. Right. And I understand that the girl probably has some other issues, right? She's using an app to help her breathe and calm down, and I get it. But you're endangering your fucking child. Like, you're so worried about your daughter being in this bed that you bolt, and you're gonna turn around. That is the dumbest fucking thing.
And then McAvoy is not apologetic in this case.
No.
So again, there's no reason. Once the bunnies return, there's no reason for them to stay. They don't say, hey, we blah, blah, blah. It is all about, let's just drive the plot along. We're back here. We might as well stick around again.
Right.
And then the dancing scene comes, which again, then McAvoy weirdly apologizes. But see, in the Danish version, the screws are already turned.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got him to come back for the second time. Now you know that they're stuck there. So now you fucking turn the screws. Now you don't apologize. So everything that they did right, this whole thing switches it around. So McAvoy apologizes for being too drunk, and then the boy shows the little girl, which he could have fucking done. I mean, I guess McAvoy needed to get drunk to move this along so they could have the keys.
Because he had to steal the keys.
So he could steal the keys. And then, in the Danish version, the father, once all this shit happens and the dancing's happened and they're exhausted and kind of scared and worried, shit turns south soon.
Yeah.
The father goes off to explore, and he'd seen On around this building beforehand, and On was trying to tell him at the beginning of the movie kind of what was happening. But got interrupted. So he goes back to this kind of farmhouse section of this other farmhouse, essentially. And then he sees all this luggage. It's all just in a room. It's just luggage in a room.
Right.
And he starts to look through it and he sees all this shit, right? In the American version, they might as well have a fucking museum.
I was going to say.
They have the iPhones positioned.
It's a curio cabinet, isn't it? It's
right. And to that extent, even him having all those watches and being shitty. I mean, and then having they almost positioned him as having Jake McAvoy having some sort of OCD, which led to him knowing that Abel was fucking with it or On was fucking with it. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So Abel takes so McAvoy has to get drunk so the boy can steal his keys so he can show the little girl, hey, and he's pointing out that you're going to
in a photo album.
Right. You're going to be next here, right? You're making the connections here. Very clearly, we're as stupid as the little girl
family,
is.
Right? And the family. But because again, in the original, he walks in, he sees these pictures and he's like, "Oh." But yeah, in this one, the kid has to point out everything to all of us. Oh, wait, in that picture, oh, that's weird. Tell me more. I'm still not convinced.
So then the little girl has to tell the family that in the American version, she has to go to get the family and say, hey, something's wrong and we need to get the boy out of here. In the original version, the dad goes and gets his family in the car. They're still asleep. They don't know what the fuck is going on.
And the kid is drowned.
Yeah, and at this point, the little boy is
drowned.
dead.
He's dead. Yeah.
And so they get run off the road. The dad basically leaves his wife and daughter to go find help. And at that point, the family shows up and says, "Hey, we're going to help. We found you guys. We'll help you guys get back on the road." And they're like, "Thanks for that." And then, but the father knows. The father knows that he's fucked. So when he sees the other car, he's like, "Why are you doing this?" I mean, like basically, he's like, "Please don't hurt my family. Why are you doing this?" And because you let us. And then the last fucking 20 minutes of the Danish version is a kick to the goddamn groin the entire fucking time. It is a brilliant kick to the groin.
Yep.
It is just fucking torture after torture. This is why it's a fucking horror film.
Right.
To the end of that movie, our daughter has had her tongue cut off and ripped out of a car, and 2 of the parents are now being stoned to death in the middle of this pit.
After not putting up a fight at all.
Right. Because they couldn't. They don't know how.
Yeah.
And this version, in the American version, now it's it's breakdown. It is fear. It's like all these.
You're next.
It's
right?
a stupid. Right. I mean, and no, and like
actually,
actually,
I like You're Next.
Right. I listed like 3 actually fun films.
Right.
This is just a fucking. Then it turns into a battle royale. And what's funny about this too is that like you set this father up to be this ineffectual cuckold, right? You never give him he never wins, right?
I know.
His wife continuously take
him.
the guns away from people.
And this is okay. I'm glad you brought this up because this is where I was starting to wonder as I'm watching this film and audibly in the theater just going fuck this. Was part of this supposed to be in some way a satire? Right? A satire about ineffectual men versus toxic masculinity, and the women have to save us all the time. I mean, if it was, it failed at doing that. But I'm like, maybe that would have been a better approach to this one.
Yeah,
I mean,
a better approach would look. We said
a better approach would have been not to make this version.
Right. We said this when we talked about Speak No Evil before. Was that they're never going to make this ending in the American version.
And they did not. Yeah.
They absolutely did not. And I think we were like, oh God, I hope they don't do what they actually did.
But they did.
And like God,
and we still went and saw it.
And then it turns into fucking Home Alone. Like it's just. They
found some really concentrated drain cleaner,
right? Or that cider that he had that he was 150 proof.
They tried to make a Molotov cocktail. That was so awful, right? They make the Molotov cocktail and he just drops it.
But I mean, so whereas I guess we're kind of missing the thread. Whereas the first one was about this ineffectual liberalism and performative liberalism in this case. Because you're white people that have no issues
and no real convictions.
But no real convictions. Yeah. This one turns into a fucking robbery.
Yeah.
They weren't picked out because they were a cuckold and they were fighting. They weren't picked out because they were ineffectual in and of themselves. They were picked out because we guessed that they had money.
Yeah.
And so then we have the ability to. Again, all of the machinations at the end are stupid. I can get your money wired. You show me your bank account and we'll get your money wired. And then I can sell your Tesla. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, that was really when it pissed me off. It pissed me off a lot.
Right.
But
to reduce it down to just...
It's a robbery.
We're a thief. We're going to steal your stuff. We're going to sell it. We're just doing this for money. I mean, again, it undercuts everything because in the original, they were just evil, right?
Right.
There was no benefit.
What does the title mean to you in this case?
Right.
I mean, I'm speaking to the filmmakers. What is the title?
No, I know you weren't talking to me. I know.
What does it mean?
I understood.
What does it mean? What does Speak No Evil mean? That the kid had his tongue cut off and that was it?
And because so you couldn't tell them the evil,
right? Because and they just drive off happily ever after. And I guess they've got to worry about it. They've got enough charge to get back to wherever they're going. But I mean,
fucking trauma that they have to deal with now.
Right. Well, no. Yeah. The worst thing that happens is they're going to potentially have to file a complaint that their money got transferred inadvertently or incorrectly. Or
I'd like to file a complaint that my money was inadvertently wired to the people who tried to kill me, and then I killed them.
And so the boy that. Seriously, going back to your point about the satire, it would have almost worked had they've kind of dived into it because, if you would have killed the wife and had the father take the 2 kids away, but like then go like, fuck that, I'm gonna kill this guy. You should kill him. I don't know why you're not killing him, because
right.
But he doesn't. The little boy
smashes his head
McAvoy like over and over and over again after giving him ketamine. I mean, like giving him a ketamine shot,
ketamine,
right?
Yeah.
Which is coming up a lot in this podcast.
That's right. Yeah. Last episode we talked about ketamine in depth.
Is this what we have become? And I know, I mean, I guess the question could be, are we become the podcast that just fucking hates movies? Because I mean, it seems like it. But like, but is this what we're?
No, this deserves that hate.
Is this what we're equating to a good performance?
Right.
This yelling and screaming and taking off your shirt and being muscular.
Yeah.
Does that constitute a fucking like tour de force performance that McAvoy's gonna scare your fucking tits off?
Pretty similar to like Pat McAfee, though.
Right? Yes, very similar to McAfee.
Not too different.
Like it fucking sucks.
Oh
like,
no, I hate it.
The screaming scene was fucking dumb.
It was so bad.
Like there was no point where these men would have connected. At no point would these men have bonded.
No.
And at no point would the women with their age differences, like all of the beats about don't tell my kid what to do, and like the weird stuff about McAvoy apologizing for the goose, like, which doesn't happen in the original. And here's the other thing that really, really bothered me is that McAvoy, like when she cuts her finger, she goes over to the sink and they're like, "Aren't you a doctor?" And McAvoy's like, "No, I'm not a doctor. Like, what do you do for work? I've never worked." And then I'm fucking with you.
Right.
I'm lying. I actually am a doctor. In the first one, in the Danish version, he doesn't say that.
Right.
You know why? Because he makes those fucking people uncomfortable. Because he was basically trying to lure them in.
Mm-hmm.
And they look at each other like, oh, fuck. Like, I guess we'll accept your explanation. But, oh, shit. Like, what else have you lied about? Just fuck you. Like, how do you fucking and here's the thing, like, it's fine. I mean it's not
it's
not
not
but like
fine.
we see this
It's not
shit
fine.
happen all the time, like like good night or goodbye, good night mommy, and fucking there are all kinds of like let me in to a certain extent, like all these kind of remakes that fucking fuck up the original. And the problem is that you discourage people from watching the original. You give them an out to not watch the original. Like, don't call this Speak No Evil. Release this 2 years down the road and call it something completely else. And then in the end credits say inspired by X, and then maybe someone will reach to seek it out. But most likely they won't equate these two, or they'll stumble upon Speak No Evil on Shudder and go, oh shit, that was kind of similar to that piece of shit movie that I saw in the theaters 2 years ago.
But it's a lot better. Yeah.
Right. And this one has a point, and the other one fucking doesn't. I don't understand the fucking love that this piece of shit is getting, and I don't understand people who. Look, I understand if you don't like the first one, fine. Right, I get it. I mean, that's okay.
Sure.
That's okay.
Sure.
But I can't imagine you watching that one and then watching this one and thinking, well, this was clearly what that one should have been.
And I read people saying that, like, oh, I forgot the original like too easily. It just like after it was done, I was like, and I forgot about it. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I mean, if this is what you want, then this is the type of fucking bullshit movie that you're gonna get.
And I mean, and that goes back to what you were saying about McAvoy, right? Those kind of performances get rewarded. I don't know why, but they do, right? I mean, they get praised. They're like, oh, he was so big and so strong and so like boisterous and out there. Did you see what he did with his like little smiles? And it's like, no, like it was way over the top, and it did not need to be.
Right.
Again, subtlety and nuance is a lot more effective in I think a movie like this, right? Which is what we saw in the original. We see the bad guy doing these similar things, but in a much quieter tone, which makes it fucking creepier and scarier, even more menacing.
Even the little boy, in the moment where he's standing in front of the slide and he won't move, it's a moment where he's desperately trying to insert himself into the situation in order to make things uncomfortable so things get asked, right? And to potentially, he may be even smart enough to make sure that the father fucking flips his shit.
Mm-hmm.
In this one, it's just another fucking like way to, I mean, like, again, McAvoy's already been a dick.
Right.
Like, he's already been abusive, and like, you've already excused it.
Yeah.
Like, all of this shit. Like even the beginning when they're in Italy and they're having the conversation about the restaurant. The father doesn't give a shit about, like in the Danish version, the father doesn't give a shit about how much it costs, right? He just is fucking tired of having to make a decision about some shit he doesn't give a shit about. And the kid's on his ass about the bunny. And then that's when he blows up and he has to go find it. And the mom's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Shut up, go find the bunny. In this one, they're just pissed off about money, but they have money. And 42 euros for risotto. I mean, you're fucking in Italy. Of course you're going to, I mean, like, there would be no reason to have that conversation. And again, once he doesn't find the bunny and it's just delivered to him, like, and you know, they see them fucking in the beginning, like they walk down and they see them again in the building. There's no reason for this couple to be attracted to one another. And there's certainly no reason for them aside from, so that's the thing, is that this movie, the American version then has to give them a reason to go. And that reason to go is that his wife is cheating on him, you know, at least emotionally with another man. And he can't, and they're both miserable in London. It's fucking dumb. And it's fucking pointless. It just, I mean, like, it has absolutely. I saw somebody say that this one had less to say. I was like, it has nothing to say. Once you boil it down to a robbery, then it has nothing to say.
Right.
Right.
They're you
just
let them
victims.
escape and you let them get by when they've shown no inclination to do so.
You're not supposed to like the couple in the first. You're not supposed to like either one of these couples, but you're certainly not supposed to like the couple that gets stoned. You're not supposed to feel sorry for them. You're supposed to be fucking pissed. You're supposed to be screaming at the screen saying, why the fuck aren't you doing something? Right? You've done nothing the entire film. Why aren't you doing something? And they still, those characters don't. They can't. They're physically, emotionally stunted. They can't fucking do it.
Yeah, and now they're dead.
And now they're dead. And it's supposed to leave you with that feeling. In this case, you get a hoorah. We all get to drive off in our shotgun
Tesla
right.
and our...
I mean, like I said,
truck.
The worst,
it wasn't a Cybertruck,
the worst thing that they have happen to them is that they'll have an inconvenience of extracting that money out of a bank account, and they'll have to file a police report in Wales
or wherever they were. Okay, let's move on. I don't want. I can't anymore. We talked way too long about that piece of shit movie. I fucking hate it. I have no more energy to talk about it. Okay, so we are going to talk about football movies, and I want everyone to know this was Jason's idea.
It was
not mine. I am philosophically and politically opposed to American football. I'm kidding. I mean, but kind of not, right? But we have picked 4 kind of different football films for you today. I don't know, anything you want to say about football, Jason? I've said football like 7 times.
I just want to hear you say it more times.
Football.
Look, I wouldn't encourage children to play it. I think it is exploitative. I also think it's manipulative. And yeah, I still go see it. So what can I say?
You played at a higher level than I did.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I played D3 college football. I wouldn't say that was exactly high level,
but I opted not to play college football at all. I had the chance to, and I said I do not have the passion or drive to play this sport any longer. Excuse me. But as much as I feel the same way about what you just said, I will always defend, I think, my earlier years of playing football, grade school, high school, as teaching me quite a bit about how to, I mean, not to be cliche, but like how to be part of a team and to know what my job is, to know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and how to sort of work on those strengths, right, for the betterment of everyone.
Yeah, no, I had no problem playing it when I was I was an emotional kid, and growing up in the Hughes era, there were times where I felt like fucking Emilio Estevez in Breakfast Club, but of course it was never that dramatic, right? But like,
you know how hairy he is.
I'm a fucking workhorse, man. I'm like a racehorse. But absolutely, I do. I mean, like, there's something to be said for sports. I don't think that the adulation nor the monetary support that is provided these things. I don't think, of course, living in Texas I've gone to stadiums that are high school stadiums that are millions and millions and millions of dollars. Just so these monuments that are built to high school athletes.
Explains a lot about this state.
Right. I don't think that's necessary.
Right.
But I don't think that inherently there's anything necessarily wrong with the sport. Although I mean, other than once you get to a certain level, I do think that there's probably a lack of and I think there is a willful ignorance about the dangers of the sport that exist and that only come to light as of late. When we were I remember, there's a book called The Junction Boys, which is about I think I forget who the fucking coach was. If it was Bear Bryant when he coached A&M, and he was like some 1934 or whatever. I'm getting all the dates wrong and all the details wrong.
That's what we do here.
But they coached, he took them out into, to South Texas to toughen these kids up, whatever, and wouldn't give them water, water was for pussies, right? That was like, if you drank water during practice, you were ridiculous. And if you had and I grew, and you and I played in the time where if you got your bell rung, you went back in.
Right.
There's a moment in the program where they talk about whether you're hurt or whether you're injured.
Right.
That was the predominant feeling in football, right? I mean, in high school and in college. I don't know how many concussions I actually had. I don't know. Of course, and I wasn't playing against behemoths, right? I mean, even at D3 and high school football, I played against one person who went pro. I played.
Really?
Zach Thomas.
Oh, okay.
I played against Zach Thomas when he was in high school.
I played against a handful of guys who ended up going.
And I might have played against others, but I don't know. Against other teams.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I could give you their name, and you probably would have never heard of them, right? But I worked with a guy. So when I worked at UPS for a while, I worked with a guy, another kind of area manager, who played for the Vikings, and then went and played for Canadian Football League. And I was like, "Oh, Marco, what position did you play?" And he was like, "Safety." And I'm like, "You're fucking massive, and you were a safety?" I'm like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, he was like, "Oh, I was kind of small." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, fucker was anyway, his biceps were as big as my head.
Right.
And his quads, I'm just like, that's how big you had to be to play.
Yeah, I've stood next to current day Dallas Cowboys, and it's just like blocking out the sun. I mean, it is unbelievably how large these human beings are. And can still do what they do,
Right.
But yeah, and it's rare, where I'm the smallest guy, but I did have those instances where I knew a guy who played for Texas, or actually played for Baylor, and then I went and played for the Redskins for a while, the Washington for a while, and yeah, it was just he was he was never a starter, but just a gigantic dude. It was just crazy. Anyway, the whole point is, I think the NFL sucks. I think the NFL has a comeuppance that is very well. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say because they continue to kind of press the issue, and then suppress the real issue at hand of CTE. I think the NFL's players union, eventually get to a point where it has to kind of push back, but the money's so large that these days that it's hard to balance out $240 million guaranteed across. Well, I may not be able to remember my wife's name when I'm 50. Right. I mean, so.
Do you want to now? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So I have a hard time, right? I think the sport should be burned to the ground a lot of days.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, some of my best friends in the world, I grew up playing football with. I'm still buddies with my high school football team. I'm still buddies with my college football team. And so it's hard. But I don't necessarily. I mean, didn't necessitate from football. It just happened to be the sport that we played. We could have gotten that from basketball or soccer or anything else too.
Badminton.
And I will say this: I'm glad that none of my sons played, because one, when they were coming up, when playing pee-wee stuff. And again, I'm not judging anybody who does or lets their kids play at all.
Yes, you are.
I mean, a little bit, but. Coming up and playing pee-wee or junior high, I just never felt like the one playing tackle that young. I would never let a kid play tackle or helmeted football before really ninth grade. Maybe once you and at that point, because at that point, once you're in high school, you probably have a medical staff that's available to you. in fucking these rec leagues and shit, you got
parents,
right, who don't know
Yeah.
shit. They're
No.
just
No.
oh, he's got a neck injury. Let's just yank him by his shoulder pads
Yeah.
off the field, kind
Right.
of thing. Right?
Right.
There's no ambulances at the Pee Wee football game. So yeah, I mean, I think head trauma is worrisome, and I'm glad it didn't. At the end of the day, I'm glad it didn't play at a higher level where it would have ever necessarily became more of an issue than it currently
I was
is
gonna
for
say.
me.
Well, okay. So let me ask you a question. Are you horny to win?
I'm always horny to. Hey, it's a sport of kings, though.
Let's talk the best of times.
Everyone has something in their life they wish they could do over.
You dropped the ball.
You dropped the ball.
I've simply been known as the man who dropped the ball.
Jack Dundee did something so awful.
You remember, Reno remembers, the whole goddamn town remembers.
Okay, I remember.
I knew it!
So humiliating. So unforgivable.
Get out!
He'll never live it down.
Jack, you got no shame at all.
His only chance is to live it over.
You can't rewrite history.
Why not?
It's an unnatural act.
Jack, there is no such thing as an unnatural act. I should know.
I've just come up with the big idea.
You're going to replay what game?
Jack, you can't play that game again.
I am throwing down the gauntlet.
Ow!
We can raise Taft out of lethargy.
You think Taft's lethargic?
You're damn right it is. Proud of it.
We accept the challenge.
Let's play some football.
You're torturing me!
I come up with the meaning of life and you call it torture?
Jackie's out of the house.
Mr. Weasel's here.
That is gross, Dad.
He changed his life and the town forever.
Are you horny to win?
What do you think? I think it's pathetic.
Makes a grown man want to cry.
Robin Williams, Kurt Russell,
What do I do now? Be cool. Be what?
the best of times.
Look at all that phony pseudo-macho posing. I look great. Yeah.
I'm having a ball.
Yes. All right.
A small town loser determines to have one more shot at the big time by winning a football game. I love the idea of like rewriting history, right? In a rather than confronting like our past, we're just gonna redo it. we're not gonna like worry about it. We're just gonna redo it, and then everything will change, right?
Right. It's surprising as watching these films so close together how many actors popped up over and over again, specifically in this one and in Wildcats, a duo which you don't ever really see with Emmett Walsh and Robin Lively showing up. Which weirdly enough, Robin Lively's been in like the past like few episodes.
I know.
Like, who would have thunk it? We become the preeminent
theme, right?
We become the preeminent Robin
And
Lively
she
discussion.
has like the same hair in both of these, like this like punkish like pink or purple hair.
Right, and she hates gays in all three movies.
I know, it's weird.
It's bizarre.
So weird.
But that theme's real, like giving a town or giving a community a sense of worth because of the football team.
Look, you know what we need, and this is what I noticed rewatching The Best of Times. We need to restage some kind of football game, not just here, but all across the country because it reopens movie theaters.
Yes, beautiful new movie theater.
Beautiful old vintage movie theaters, right? With these wonderful marquees. That's what we need to do.
So Robin Williams plays Jack. He was a third string wide receiver on his high school football team. And he's lived in this town, which by all accounts, this town should be flourishing. It's flush with oil money and continual oil money.
But we get that prelude, right?
Right. Yes. They can't get out of their own fucking ways. They're just a bunch of morons.
It used to be called Moron. The town used to be called Moron, and they changed the name.
And I do love that prelude. I do. This is my favorite of the four that we watched.
No, mine too.
I think there's a little bit of nostalgia. This movie is not a perfect movie by any means.
No.
But I think I love one. This one was, who directed this one? And it was written by Ron Shelton, right?
Right.
So this Ron Shelton,
Spottiswoode.
Yeah, Robert Spottiswoode. So he did The Sixth Day. He did a bunch of like all of these guys who directed these movies all did like mid-level, like good to turn on TBS movies. Like they're none of them are great, but none of them are terrible.
Right. And like mid-tier directors who did everything.
Right.
TV movies, right? Like you said, The Sixth Day, these other like just weird films.
But Ron Shelton was it like all of your favorite sports movies was him basically. Yeah. So
Bull Durham,
White Men Can't Jump, Tin Cup, all of these that are just like are perfect kind of your hero's journey sports movies.
Yeah.
Are written by. So this has got a pretty decent pedigree as far as sports movies go. And I love this era of Robin Williams where he's not quite the birdcage Robin Williams where they kind of unleashed him. He's still kind of reining in his stand-up persona in order to act. So he's World According to Garp, like, you know, he's in these kind of like Moscow on the Hudson, these types of movies that are like pseudo-serious but pseudo-funny. Like he's given a little bit of playing room but not enough to like really burst out.
I made a note and I was like, is this the best kind of Robin Williams role?
I think so.
I do too.
I think so. Because again, once he gets to his end stage, right? Well, okay, I will say once he got past his Patch Adams schmaltz and then he dove into like Insomnia and 1 Hour Photo and World's Greatest Dad, like where he was like fearless. I think that might be the best era of Williams. But did he really get like credit for those roles at the time? I don't really feel like he did. I don't think so. Like it was kind of like a weird time, like when Carrie turned dark for a minute too. Like because like the one that he did that was great that like no one talks about anymore was Death to Smoochie. Like that movie's amazing and like no one really talks about how
everybody hates it.
I know it's weird.
But that's what I mean, right? I mean,
yeah, and like 1 Hour Photo, I don't think he got credit for that.
No. And I don't think that movie is very good. And I think maybe that is the what kind of.
And Insomnia is a footnote in Nolan's career, right?
Because it's also a remake,
right.
Of a foreign film with the Skarsgård dad.
yes. Mort Skarsgård,
who wasn't Mort Skarsgård also in The Vanishing, which was also a remake. Was he in the original?
Maybe. I can't.
I don't know. I'm not going to look it up either. I don't really care.
So Jack is this. There was a big, huge rivalry between a town of basically a town that has everything and a town that has nothing. And then of course the
rivalry is kind because they never won.
Right, they never won. Right. They got their asses handed to them
every year,
like 82-6, 86-4. It was just an ass whipping the entire time. Until one kid comes along, fucking Reno Hightower, Kurt Russell.
The fucking name.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. And like he leads them out of the fucking pit and leads them to high school football glory, which this entire town rests everything on high school football glory, which is not too uncommon, to be quite honest.
No, it's not.
Especially for
small
towns.
Yeah.
And then he's this Greek god who wears white shoes and like no one's worn white cleats.
No quarterback has worn
white. And the town only had one other like brush with greatness, and it's this boxer named Kid Lester who got an unlucky punch in the 5th round of a boxing.
It's like he slipped or something.
Right.
Got knocked out.
And then left town in shame, vowing to return to bring glory back to Taft. And so this movie's kind of dumb in the sense of like, we kick off 13 years later, so all these guys are 31 years old, which is not like Jack's still in pretty good shape. Jack's married the banker's daughter, who was also the guy of the who's basically kind of like, I don't know who he is in the other town, but a big wig in the other town, and he's always kind of lording this over Jack. They're lording the win over Jack, and
you didn't talk about how they lost the game.
Oh, right. So Reno, So Reno, they were gonna win. They were gonna win this game in 72 or 73, and Reno blows out his knee on the last pass. He gets sacked, but he throws the ball up in the air. A beautiful pass, hits Jack in the hands, and he drops it. And so now he's that guy he dropped the pass that could have beaten this team, and Taft has gone in the shitter ever since. Jack's got a great life. He's a VP of a bank, has nothing to do really.
Right, he just looks busy.
He writes checks to local charities and local right. But he's married to the banker's, to the lead banker's daughter. And so all he has to do, but he can't fucking get over this drop pass 13 years later. And he still goes to this prostitute outside of town, this massage parlor, but he doesn't sleep with her. He just goes and talks about the game the entire time. He even gets undressed.
It's so good.
And still talks about it. And so the prostitute's like, well, why can't you just, it's like, you should just do something about it. Like, and it's like, what can I do? It was 13 years ago. It's like, just play the game again. It's like, you can't do that. And she's like, why can't you play the game again? It's like, you can't do it. It's like, give me one reason. And he can't give her a reason. And so, a better movie would be that the game didn't actually get, I mean, like, of course you couldn't do that. But but like this idea that Jack reinvents the town. Like, so Jack decides, okay, he goes to the banker and says, hey, I want to play that game again. We're gonna, I challenge you to this game.
Gonna get the band back together.
Right. And then he has to go and do the montage of getting all these ridiculously old 31-year-olds who have never worked out again.
No.
I saw, this is a side note, but I saw that, like a clip of My Dinner with Andre where Wallace Shawn is talking about how he's 36 years old. That guy looks 90 in My Dinner with Andre.
I know. Did you see, so speaking of that, there was a picture of like the Traveling Wilburys, right, for their first record, and they showed the ages of everyone, and you're like, holy shit.
They're like 25.
You're like, Bob Dylan's 47 in that picture? Oh, wow. Right? Or Roy Orbison's only 52? Because they all look 80. And I think Harrison was like my age.
Right.
Right? I mean, I think he was like mid-40s. And you're just like, what the fuck? So
it's hard living, kids. And 80s living wasn't easy, I guess.
Oh, no. I guess not, yeah.
So he goes and they have, basically he gets the team back together and there's a montage. But the montage, the town is so excited about this that they spend must be millions of dollars
to do all this stuff
to put
refurbish town, right?
they completely redo downtown. All the while, like Jack and Reno, their families are falling apart. Reno's wife Gigi wants to be a singer in LA, and Jack's wife is just tired of talking about the game, and all he can think about is football. And and you get the feeling like they just don't have a great relationship, and like his kid doesn't respect him.
Robin Lively
doesn't respect him, and that's when the movie kind of bogs down. Is that there's a moment where these women are like seeing these men revitalized and kind of again regaining their youthful vigor, that they've got this thing to live for. Because Reno's now he's a painter. He's a van specialist
and a mechanic,
right? Which how many in Taft? How many people can have vans that require
that specialized mural, right, painting on the side?
The best one, and I talked to you about this offline. The best one is he does this Van Gogh painting, and it's called Van Gogh, G-O, because
it's on a van, right? It's on Go. Some of your best work.
And so like they start to see their men, their husbands in this new light because they've got this revitalization to them. So they invite them over for dinner because they're kind of feeling lonely and they want to partake in all of this as well. And this only caveat is they invite them over on Monday night and they can't talk football or they can't talk sex. And for some reason, this is where like it's like there's no reason for a guy who was so humiliated by, and again, I know I'm pointing out something really ridiculous about a ridiculous movie, but for a guy who was so humiliated about football, there's no reason why he'd be so obsessed. I mean, I guess you could argue that like he's trying to get that back. But so he turns on a Monday Night Football game and then gets caught watching it while they're at the dinner together, and they both get kicked out. And then they put on a dance there's Reno's about to bow out of the game, doesn't want to play, and he's continually trying to get out of it because Reno only lives off of the history and the remembrance and the memories of his performances. So like when he goes to all of his friends, he's like, look, man, like they think I threw 6 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns in this game. I only threw 3.
I love this.
Yeah, that's
that is so good. I mean, that shows how much like Reno understands exactly who he is, right? He's the only one who understands who he is. He's like, I didn't do all that. I was pretty good.
I was good for
here. But like I didn't throw 6. I threw 3. And then I love later when he's talking to the guys at the dance, like his lineman. He's like, I couldn't have thrown 8 touchdown passes without you
guys.
guys. Right. I was like, he just upped it again. It's so good. Yeah.
So in order to get Reno to actually play, and Jackson ultimately, he's like, what's not really talked about in this movie at all is how good of a manipulator he is. At every step, like he's able to get the game off the ground, basically kind of by borrowing and cheating and like doing whatever he can. So he throws paint on Gigi and vandalizes the dance
in the tiger costume,
in the tiger costume from the other team, and then that convinces Reno. He gets pissed off, and now he has a reason to play to kind of stand up for his lady. And then, of course, as they're getting their asses handed to them when the game starts, he has to go back in and make him get mad. So Jack comes in. Anyway, the game starts. So I'm jumping ahead. The game starts. They're getting their asses handed to them. It's 21 or 24 to nothing in the first half.
Yeah.
But the halfback jumps up in celebration and twists his knee.
That's right.
For the opposing team. So now and it starts to pour down rain, which is a predominant thing that's going to happen in a lot of these movies.
This is true.
I think in every single one of these football movies that we're playing,
pouring rain.
Not only pouring rain, we're playing in basically kiddie pools.
Yeah,
like there's when we get to the program, the opening scene in the program, they are playing in standing water. Like that game would have been canceled long ago.
Mud and muck. You can't see the lines. You can't see anything.
There's no lights on in that stadium.
I
but
know.
we'll get it. I'm really jumping ahead.
Right.
So they're down 24-0 , and of course we see this hooded figure come back in, and he has an umbrella with him.
He's got a flat cap on. He's not hooded.
That's right. He's hooded in Not Another Teen Movie, which is a spoof when they spoof this, which is a weird thing for that movie to spoof because who
gets that?
Who got that reference that Mr. T is Kid Lester?
They're like, we know that there are some Gen Xers in here,
Right.
right?
So Reno, nobody wants to play. Like they've gotten their ass kicked the entire game, and they all suck. They're just getting beat up and down the field. Reno's knees are about to give out. He's actually giving himself a cortisol shot at the beginning of the film. And so Jack pulls out the tiger costume and tells Reno to get a drink. And of course, that way that he knows that Jack was the one. So now he can get mad at Jack and play the game. And so Reno, this whole thing has been about, this whole thing is supposedly leading up to Jack catching the football at the end. That has that one last redeeming moment. So Reno's like, you're not going to get that catch.
Yeah.
I'm breaking. So he breaks his glasses and tells him he can't play in the second half. And of course, Reno's pissed. He puts on the white shoes and yells at his running back, telling him to stop smoking and get his ass in gear. And then he becomes the leader that he once was. He finds his spark again and starts to lead them back. And of course, I think this movie out of all of them does I know what's going to happen. I've seen this movie 100 times.
Right.
But this movie does the best in the second half of really keeping you on your edge. It really has that moment of oh shit, are they, aren't they? And I know a lot of football movies can do that, but this one does it really, really well, where it's just are they going to get the ball back? They're going to get the ball back. But that moment is kind of like that swell in your chest, let's get this done.
This is the one that does that. Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, they start to come back. Reno starts to lead them back. So it's 21-24. And, they're down to their last play. And of course, he throws the ball and Jack catches it.
But before that, going back to this idea of Jack being a good manipulator, right? They're on the sideline. And Reno says something to him, and Jack goes, "Oh, it's a good thing I'm not in there, isn't it?" He goes, "Oh no, you're going in."
right.
Yeah, like this because he wants that redemption, obviously.
Right,
and,
right.
He's got to figure out a way to get back in there.
And all the while, Jack is up against this prisoner called Dr. Death.
Dr. Death. What I love is I thought he was in jail. Yeah, he's on parole.
So he can't get past him. He can't get downfield. And Reno's like, can you get open? And this really kind of bravado last scene is can you get open? Yeah, I can get open. Get open. I'm going to get open. And then he has a little tete-a-tete with Dr. Death and does this spin move that he's done earlier in the film. This dance move. Got to satisfy. And then he just runs down the field. And of course, he ends up catching it, nearly dropping it, and then scoring a touchdown. What I love too is it's not just if he had caught the ball in the what's kind of a dumb point to kind of point out, but if he had caught the ball in the first game, he wouldn't have scored. He would have fallen down anyway,
right.
and it would have just been
because it was actually underthrown.
Right.
I mean, it was an underthrown ball.
But he would have fallen down. The time would have ran out, and it would have been over. And so in this one, he has to actually kind of like do a little jump move to get into the end zone in this muddy ass field, and of course they win, and then they do a little Kid Lester kind of pumps his fists and walks off into the sunset. And then the dad is finally, his father-in-law is like stupidly finally proud of him, and that's the end. That's it. It's just a feel good fun.
Hey,
like
99, nice catch.
The only time this one doesn't fuck around with the football like enough to make where there's continuity problems,
right?
Like which almost all football movies do. The only time that they do that is in the fourth quarter. They say there's 7:56 left. They show 7:56 on the clock. Mm-hmm. They run a shit ton of plays, and then Emmett Walsh goes, "There's 7:56 left in the game." I'm like, wait a minute,
wait, what happened?
Yeah. All of them do. Like it's so bad but this one, and I will say this one also doesn't make like the football looks like it's been played by 31-year-old guys.
It does, right.
I mean, like there's one or two guys that are athletic, and Reno can still toss the ball around, but like there's not any of these ridiculous crunching hits. There's not, which we'll get to in the next three, but like there's not. This feels realistic for this sense. And
there's verisimilitude in this, right? Where there aren't in a lot of others, right? I love how this captures like the absurdity of small town America too, and how like small town can just get wrapped up in all this nonsense.
And I mean, I think the interplay, what Shelton does so well is the interplay between Jack and Reno is so good. Their friendship, they're kind of troubled, belabored. They're tied to one another because they're in this fucking town that is basically sucking them under. As someone stomps out of the room, is so good. Williams and Russell play so well off of each other, and Russell is just so fucking good in this.
He's so good.
I mean, when I said this way, is he our most unappreciated actor? He has to be. The guy's cut out of fucking stone. The guy's beautiful. The head of hair. I mean, like,
and he's funny,
right? He's so like versatile as an actor. Like, it's just, I mean, it's weird to like he didn't have a career like, I don't know, like McQueen or Newman or like somebody that should have been headlining shit. Like, I mean, I know he's had like, because he kind of came up in the Disney world and like he did headline movies. But even then, they were underperformed. Like, why aren't we? I mean, I know that with Cultish, we are celebrating Jack Burton, and The Thing, and but like McCready
and Snake Plissken,
right? But I just feel like there should have been more of those, right? I feel like those shouldn't be cult figures. I feel like those should be like.
And he did this. He did Overboard. He did. What else did he do with Goldie Hawn? Bird on a Wire was Mel Gibson.
Right. I'm trying to think Goldie Hawn films. No, that Nadine was Alec Baldwin. Kim Basinger. I'm just gonna be naming.
But
80s films.
Because I mean he was in a couple of those, but like nothing else really. I mean, what was it like? Tequila Sunrise, was that him?
Yeah, with Stallone.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like everything that he did, like, I mean, because like he did Executive Decision, and like they feel like a lot of that stuff that he did after in the 90s really kind of was, I don't know, B-level stuff that wasn't like, and then kind of going back to the well with Escape from LA, like there was nothing that really kind of like popped, that kind of, I don't know, it was just weird that he wasn't wasn't able to like, because he's so good in this, and he looks the part in this obviously. But yeah, I mean, someone who can do action and comedy that well should have been like, I mean, headlining way more movies than fucking Captain Ron. And maybe
that the Cabin Boy sequel?
That was the prequel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I think that's probably maybe kind of what did him in too, is some of those kind of pseudo like underperforming and underwhelming comedies. Although there are people who love Captain Ron, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't know them.
But yeah, I've always loved this movie. Again, besides kind of the dead spot about the sex stuff with their wives, I even love the moments with their wives, and the wives not the wives together and them kind of like befriending each other and trying to avoid the trappings of one being one-note sub-characters that are only there to prop up their husbands, right?
Right.
And this film, I think, does a pretty good job. And I think Shelton does that pretty well throughout his filmography.
Especially if you look at something like White Men Can't Jump, too.
Right. Well, I mean, like Bull Durham.
And Bull Durham, yeah.
And even Tin Cup. You got Rene Russo, who's, got agency in that film. So.
Yeah, kind of. Because she goes from Don Johnson to... I mean, it's kind of a weird kind of agency, right? I mean, she's certifiably clinical, right? She's... But I mean, I do like how, Shelton does do this like back and forth, like buddy comedy, like really well. And you can see that in all those movies we just listed.
Right.
With Kevin Costner and Cheech Marin and Kevin Costner and Tim Robbins and Woody and Wesley. Thank you. Right. Yeah. This was one I always remember like watching as a kid too, when I was like 8-9 years old, and just.
Did you know that there was a 2021 remake, or they tried to make a 2021 remake? There's an IMDb entry for a Best of Times remake. It still has the same poster. Nobody's listed on it. Like it doesn't really exist, but it has like ratings. Like people were able to like say that they saw it. So I was like, yeah, I don't know if it was like a made for TV thing and it just never got, but that would be a huge mistake to
absolutely.
On the level of Speak No Evil mistake to make this.
And I think like this era, I was also like, when I was watching these, and especially like these next, or the first three we're going to get to, was the 80s like the best time for these kinds of movies?
I think so.
I mean, it feels like it has to be, right?
Yeah. I think it's these like, these comedies that are led by, kind of TV stars. You got like Keaton doing Mr. Mom and Night Shift, and like, you got Aykroyd doing Dr. Detroit. Like all these kind of like, there's just a whole slew of films that just kind of lived on HBO.
Yeah.
And lived in this era that were just kind of in constant rotation. And I don't think you see that much anymore. Like you don't see these kind of like, of course we've already lamented like the mid-level like adult features anyway, but
I think these movies, like, so this one, and we're going to talk about All the Right Moves next, but I think especially those two get something about this so much more right than something like The Program does.
Oh.
And I think it's time frame too that helps with that.
Yeah, I agree. Right. I think it's like the Program's so desperately trying to be about something. This is about 2 men. Like that's part of it too, is like it being like done by Shelton, is that he understands the dynamic. But like if you talk about like, the sport is an afterthought. The sport is a setting, right? It's never really about the sport. It's about these 2 men trying to figure out their place, and so it's one that clearly has never let go, and one that's still stuck in kind of neutral. I don't think that they really, if they do, they're not promoted. They're not. They don't really exist in anybody's thought process.
Yeah, I don't think. And this is not to belabor the point. We'll get on to the next film, but I don't think that sports movies can be done like this anymore. And I mean, even if you look at something like Bang the Drum, right? The Roy Scheider baseball movie. I mean, like, you can't do that stuff anymore. It just, I don't know why. I mean, because I'm not that smart, right? But maybe we don't have the same, like, nostalgic feeling for sports that we once did, or that sports are playing a different kind of role in our society now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, because like all the films that come after The Program are about football.
Right.
Like they're only about football.
That's right. That's what I mean. Like they're about nothing else, right? I mean, except for The Last Boy Scout. That's clearly about.
Well, that was pre the program.
Wait, that was pre the program.
So
I'm sorry. I'm just like not pulling like football movies.
But I mean, like you had to go to something like Friday Night Lights, where it's and I'm talking about the TV series, not the actual. Because the actual movie is about football. Right. I mean, it's about football in small town America, but like still, and I'm not bad mouthing the movie.
You
at
can,
all, but
if you want.
I like. Friday Night
I mean,
Lights.
but you can still bad mouth it if you want. It's okay. That's kind of what we do.
I mean, sure.
But you're right. I mean, so maybe TV is the place for.
Maybe
these kind of things,
but I don't. But then the journey's too big, right? You can't, because this is all about like here's what's great.
Hence the second season of Friday Night Lights,
right? So like right, but that becomes soap opera at that point. There's no there's no like if you look at the movie,
you just got to get through it because season 3 is really worth it.
Is that where he goes to coach off at college?
I don't know. That's what everyone has always told me. I'm like, I'm not fucking watching it anymore. I'm done. Right? I'm sorry.
Look, I might go back to Seraphin and just to see what and those kids were up to. But but I mean, if you look at all the movies we're talking, Bull Durham is another hero's journey about a man who's finding himself outside of the thing that he's defined himself in. Same thing with Best of Time. Same thing with Tin Cup. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing we're telling over and over and over again. But even even something like Friday Night Lights should be, and the movie is akin to sort of like North Dallas 40, but North Dallas 40 still is more this than it is Friday Night Lights. Right. But I mean, Friday Night Lights, I think, is telling a story about how, I think Friday Night Lights, the movie, is telling a story about small town Americana. Yeah. I mean, it is telling a story of high school kids and what the pressures that it does. But I mean, ultimately, that movie is about Billy Bob Thornton's, I don't know. Even an overview.
Look, it's no Varsity Blues.
It's no Varsity Blues.
All right. Let's get to All the Right Moves.
The beak stands alone.
So you guys are going to go on in your lives. You're going to achieve some great successes. And I hope and pray you do. But no matter what the future's going to bring, there's seldom going to be a moment like tonight when you hold it all in your hands. Together! And that's how we're going to win this game. We're going to win it together! We're going to win together! Come on now!
Tom Cruise is Stefan Georgievich, a kid whose dreams are bigger than the town he lives in.
What are you looking for, Steph?
Looking to trade football for an education and still be able to walk.
I hate football. I just like to watch number 33 run around in those tight black pants.
His future depends on getting out.
I mean, now you can't even get a job in that damn mill.
You mean that mill over there where your father works? Where your brother works?
Well, my brother was laid off.
You too good for us or something?
No, sir, I just want to go to college.
But the odds are against him.
Now you do it my way or it's a highway, Georgievic.
I want to see some film on Riley, Georgievic, and Oliver.
Georgievic, I gotta take a pass on it.
Why? That kid's real tough.
No, he's got an attitude problem, Cheryl.
He's a kid, and he wants to go to college and be something.
What's wrong with you, son? I growl. You bite. You dig.
And your husband's stopping him.
Oh, where are you going?
On the bus. Now, this is the wrong bus, son. This is for players. You ride back with the cheerleaders.
You know, if he leaves here, you'll probably lose him.
Any quitters here? No, sir! Didn't hear you. No, sir! You cost us the game. You quit.
We didn't quit. You quit.
In everyone's life, there comes a moment when you gotta make your move.
Look, we're getting out of here, Brian.
And fight back. For Stefan Georgievich, that moment is now.
Together. Scholarship here, no scholarship there. He goes, he stays. Who gave you that power? You're just some high school football coach.
This is a story of courage, of love, of all the right moves. Tom Cruise, All the Right Moves.
I do not want your moves. An ambitious young football star is trapped in a dying mill town unless his gridiron skills can win him a way out. So another film about small town. My God, that song is so fucking bad.
The whole soundtrack is shit.
Oh man, it's terrible.
But I love it in a kitsch way. It's perfect.
It's so
it is
awful.
So fucking.
But
80s.
but this was the other thing. Other than say like the James Bond films or like Barbie, do we have these kinds of songs now that are just like made for these
and that's
movies?
why movies aren't any good anymore.
Right, that's exactly why. Because Jennifer Warren, right?
Yes.
Was it Warren or Warner? Okay, it was Warren. Didn't she?
Oh, I don't know.
Did she do a version of? Did she used to sing with Leonard Cohen and do a version of Famous Blue Raincoat?
Maybe.
Okay.
That sounds familiar, but I'm not.
Yeah, because when I saw her name pop up, I was like, holy shit.
I mean, we'll just say that yes, that's the answer, but.
Anyway, right? Okay.
In our reality, don't look it up, kids.
Right, I know.
It's what happened.
Look, they should be impressed that we just pulled that anyway.
Even
if we're
Leonard
wrong.
Cohen.
I know. Even if we're wrong, the fact that we were able to do that, and knew that someone with the first name Jennifer did a version of Famous Blue Raincoat
somewhere at some time.
Yeah. Look, this is another film about small town America, but a different version of a different kind of dying small town.
Right.
Right. This kind of version of a, factory or mill town, that now the factory or mill just doesn't care about anymore, and it's just kind of left there.
Right. This feels like it should have a parody. Like if you wanted to parody 80s sports movies, it should be set in Ampipe. And like have like kind of a Zoolander, like Christopher Walken, Vince Vaughn character as the brother and the dad.
It was John Voight.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't Christopher Walken. It was John Voight.
But you know what? Also, I'm pretty sure that I've seen this same town in Billy Joel's Allentown video.
This is Allentown.
That's what it is, right?
Right. That's the song they should have used for the fucking
for the video
for the theme song.
That video is terrible.
It really is.
It's so bad. Yeah, it is so bad.
But it's one of the best songs that has pipe hitting in it of all time.
Okay.
That and
the
the Fabulous
Noise, Bring the Funk.
Well, I was saying to say Fabulous Thunderbird's Tough Enough.
Okay. Now it's in my head.
All day long, baby. It's better than All the Right Moves being in your head.
True.
And The Last Stand, which is really is like, it's weird that All the Right Moves doesn't really play in the movie. Like The Last Stand plays, but it's just the song of the movie.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so Steph for Grogovich.
Tom Cruise.
Gregovich.
Dredjevich?
Right.
Georgievich,
that's right. Is this linebacker who plays for
He's a defensive back.
Is he?
He's a cornerback.
Okay, I guess that's true because he did get that pass.
Because we only see him like playing pass deep, and we never see him like because Chris Pinn's a linebacker.
That's true. Okay,
right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Chris. Yeah. Okay. First off, can we just talk about like Craig T. Nelson's coaching in this movie? One, he's a shitty coach. Like, here's the thing. So the movie, we'll get to the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
But the big game in the movie, we catch up with these kids with their 2 games left in their season, and all these kids are trying to get scholarships out of Allentown, out of Ampipe, because the only thing that's going on in this town is a factory that's closing down. And
right, everyone's being laid off, and
there's a bunch of drunks, but they all hinge and they all go. They all put their hopes and dreams on these kids that are playing football, and they're all going to wildly flung places. Like, there's no reason that USC would come recruit Chris Penn and Ampipe.
West Virginia made sense.
West Virginia,
because it's
yes,
close enough, right?
Right, but like there were a few other ones that were just like maybe Boston College, but like there's no reason that Cal Poly would be coming for a high school coach.
I know.
In Pittsburgh.
I know. It was weird.
And then for Boston College to
just show up.
None of these kids are like good or big. Like they're
that's kind of the flaw here, right?
Right.
Although they're playing this team very much like All the Right Moves, where they haven't beaten this team or whatever for a while. This is like the big rivalry.
And Craig T. Nelson's entire tenure, 5 years he's been there, they haven't beaten
that quarterback had a pretty good arm.
Yeah.
I was like, his motion, I was like, well, that's a good throwing motion there.
And
through a rope, too.
To my point, so this is a team that's a running team.
Yeah.
Supposedly, but the quarterback can throw. Craig T. Nelson's strategy here is to play goal line defense
the entire time.
And not only that, but to have his defensive line cut out the legs of the offensive line so that the running back can't possibly maneuver around. They'll have to force them inside. Who's going to tackle those kids if there's nobody that's up?
Well, they're playing like a
6-2 stack. I guess your linebackers.
Yeah, so but if you run like a fullback ISO,
right,
then you're
fucked.
taking out one, right?
Right.
And so your safety is going to have to play up, right? But so you're going to get like, is he going to bite on the run and then?
Yeah, and fall back. You're inviting them to pass, but also at that point,
you have no pressure.
Right. It's dumb. Anyway,
so if they're playing trips and you got like, well, I mean, okay.
So we get that Steph is kind of a mid-level player. He's getting recruited by what appears to be a school he doesn't want to go to. I'm guessing it's a D2 school or whatever. But
yeah, it's a school that doesn't have
a great
team. Engineering program.
Oh,
because that's his thing. He's like, look, I know, and your engineering program is not really what I want.
Right.
I mean, that's his whole thing. That's what he says as a recruiter, right?
Terry O'Quinn, by the way.
I know.
And so he kind of turns that guy down, which is Wait,
can we also talk about how Craig T. Nelson is a bad coach by just what he says?
Oh, he's a terrible human being.
He's awful. He's awful.
He's shitty to the kids. Like he
takes no responsibility for anything.
So they play this game. So like we're building up and like
Sorry.
No.
Yeah.
We see that Chris Penn gets into SC. This movie moves very fast. It's 90 minutes and it does not slow down.
It does not stop. Yeah, it does not stop.
It throws you in and you better hold the fuck on because it's just going to go. Like we see Ann Pipe. We get an idea that it's a run downtown. We see a pep rally. We see Steph and like we see Tom Cruise get out of bed and he adjusts himself and does some push-ups.
Yeah.
He makes out with Leah Thompson, who's amazing in this movie.
Of course she is.
It's so
when is she not
cute?
Yeah, just adorable.
And then
just wants to play music.
All she wants to do, right? She wants to study music. She's got no chance to get out of Amp Pipe though. She's just going to get pregnant and work at the AM/PM. I mean, it's not like she has no chance. She is a female who has no chance at all.
Play the cello or whatever she plays like in her spare time.
And as soon as Chris Penn finds out that he gets SC, like at the pep rally, he finds out his girlfriend's pregnant.
God.
And it's like, how does she feel about an abortion? And he's like, you know how she feels about it. And then that's basically it for him. Like,
he's not going to SC.
Like Steph is the only one who has like his head on, like out of the entire town, aside from Leah Thompson. Like he's like, they've got married dorms. Like you can do stuff. It's like, what am I going to do with the kid at college, man? I'm like, well, go to college.
A degree. Like,
right?
Yeah,
like,
get a degree.
Hey, Chris Penn, maybe make some decisions.
You can still
here.
play football.
Right.
It's okay. Right? Like, yeah. You wouldn't be the first football player to have a kid.
Ever have a kid.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, look at the University of Utah or BYU. Look, it happens. That's all I'm saying. I saw some LDS kids on the way.
Not at BYU because they sign a letter.
Well, maybe if you got married, though, I guess. Right. If you got married to Jesus, you can have his babies.
Maybe.
I think that's how it works. Pretty sure.
And he's in the dean's office, I think.
Right. Yes. He's got an office. His office hours are early in the morning and then very late at night. But you can see Jesus if you want. So they go to the pep rally.
He's a lot shorter than you might think.
Chris Penn, who is 5'10", $165, is somehow going to SC. Now, granted, it was the 80s. Maybe they were going to steroid him up and bulk him up. Or maybe he was just a great linebacker. They go to the pep rally. Hey, we're going to win this game. Chris Penn just finds out his girlfriend's pregnant. He has to go out and talk to the student body. He's like, we're going to win this for you. And so then they play the game, right? And during practice, it's been shown that Steph has kind of got a mouth on him.
Yeah.
And he gets a pass interference like in the practice. And of course, he does the exact same thing in the game. He actually has a really good stop early on, and then he has a pass interference penalty, which has no bearing on the game whatsoever.
It really doesn't.
Right. It doesn't give him it's already first down. It just gives him half the distance to the goal line. There's no reason that would be a big problem for the coach at all.
Right. I mean, okay, you can be upset that it's a penalty and that he didn't listen to the coach because the coach did tell him like you need to do it this way.
You need to play the
ball.
ball.
But I made the play. He's like, no, you didn't.
Right.
You actually committed a foul. He's like, what?
And he actually and to that end, like so they're down 10-7, and then Steph makes an interception on a really poorly thrown ball. The guy that you said had it threw it on a rope. It was a bad.
Not that one. Not that throw. Come on. Look, we can go back. Where's the? Let me roll back the tape. Right.
Anyway, Steph makes.
But at this point, we're playing in a torrential downpour.
That's true. Again, playing in the rain. Steph makes a pick six, so now they're up 14-10. And then but they kick off the other team, and there's like a minute left. Yeah. So the team is driving, and then Ann Pipe makes a huge 4 down, stuff them in the red zone. 4th down, they're good. And then inexplicably in a torrential downpour, like they're up by 4. Like
run the clock out.
They could have run the clock out. They could have taken a safety. They could have done anything.
Quarterback sneak.
Right. But instead, they decide to run in the backfield to hand off. And of course,
the backup running back, who's only in there, as we find out, because so-and-so got hurt.
Right. He fumbles. They recover in the end zone. 16-14. They lose the game. And so that kid's crying. And Steph comes in and is like, hey, you're fine, man. We played it. We have nothing, and like we've got nothing to be ashamed of. We played our asses off, and the coaches come in. It's like the kid's crying, and the kid who fumbled is crying, and the coach is like, "Cry me a river, baby." He basically kind of does a John Voight in Varsity Blues.
Yeah,
like,
give me a real cry.
And then he like shits on Steph.
He's
on
like,
Tom
you're all
Cruise.
a quitter. You're a quitter.
Well, he's like, part of the loss is on you because you got that penalty.
Yeah,
Hey,
like,
part of the win's on him because he fucking got a
he
pick
made
six.
I know,
you asshole.
I know.
Like he's the shittiest fucking coach.
He's terrible.
And
Why would you want this guy to come coach in college?
Right, and to that end, like he's on his way out. Why would he shit on these kids that he needs to make a good impression in the last game? Like he's on his way out. If he can coach, the last 2 games, all he's got to do, and all he wants to do is get out of this town with his kid, with his wife.
That's all anybody wants to do in
right.
this town.
But he shits on these kids. Steph's like stands up for his team. He's like, hey, it doesn't show it on the scoreboard. We beat their asses up and down that field tonight. Yeah, we got a bad break, but no one should be hanging their heads. Right. And it's like, and then he tells off the coach. It's like, you suck. We're not quitters. You quit on us. And he's like, hey, you played your last game. Like, you get your shit. You're off the team. You're off the team. And then he makes him ride home with the cheerleaders. And of course, he doesn't do that. He jumps into a truck that's driving away. It's like, he's like, this bus is for football players. And this coffee's for closers. You go on the other bus. Yeah. And he walks over to the other bus, and Leah Thompson comes out, and she's like, what's going on? And Stephanie's like, I don't want to be around you, band girl. And he leaves. That's not exactly what he said. It's not verbatim, but that's kind of the idea.
Pretty close, though.
Right?
Pretty close.
So
I think he said band woman.
Right. So Leah Thompson's all upset. He gets a ride home. He goes and gets in bad with some like local boosters, essentially.
Right. I mean, and it seems like the one main guy is kind of like a small time crook with his like hands and everything around.
But he's at the pep rally. Like,
no, he's weird because he also gave him a ride to school one morning and was walking through the halls. That's
and he's also like not attractive. Like it's like people like put up with this guy for some reason, but
because
like
he's like the small time crook who has his hand in everything. Right?
So.
We all know that guy, right? I'm pretty sure we all know that guy. Like I know that guy. Like I've known that guy in a couple different states,
That's
right? But and you're like, why do you fucking put up with this guy? You're like, no.
So they decide to go fuck with the coach's house. They like, and so Steph has been drinking. He can't get a ride back home, and he gets into the car with these guys. They're on their way to fuck up the coach's house. They put like a dead chicken on his in a noose
and like spray.
They like
house. Yeah.
They like let the tires out of his mail truck Jeep that he has.
I know,
which is a bizarre car for him to have in that town. There's no way that runs in the snow, and it's never heat effective at all.
No, it's cold.
And then of course the coach sees Steph at his house running away, and then that means that when Steph goes to apologize the next day to get back on the team, and hopefully scouts can see him. But then he says, yeah, fuck you. You were at my house.
You threw garbage on me.
You shit on my house.
My family.
That's a Can't Buy Me Love reference, if you weren't aware. And then, so Steph has been but then not only that, he doesn't let him back on the team, but then he completely blackballs him to every other, like recruiters saying, you don't want this guy, he's a head case, he's a problem, blah, blah, blah. And he tries to go and apologize. He apologizes to the wife. And then, so the school year goes on. Basically, he's got himself lined up with a job at some sort of furnace, like tearing down a furnace.
Right,
actually.
they're like yeah. It almost seems like a contract job. Or once that demo is done,
right,
you're out of work.
He goes to Chris Penn's wedding. He ends up sleeping with Leah Thompson, which kudos to him on that part.
So did you know that he was naked with her in that scene?
Really?
So apparently the producers wanted 2 nude scenes, right? So Leah Thompson didn't want to take the role at first, because they wanted her to be nude several times. And so apparently Cruise went to the producers and said, okay, we'll get it down to 1 and I'll be naked with her. So that's why she took the role, was because of that.
Interesting. I know they sent him back to high school. Like,
yeah, they put them in different high schools.
Right. And they both got like noticed almost immediately. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to begrudge the nude scene. I mean, on either side, I think you do get a little, like you see a little Tom Cruise stem a little bit if you like pause it just the right way.
I love that you're like pausing and trying to get the right angle to see a little Tom Cruise junk. Right. Like is it true what they say?
Right. See what we can see.
I don't know what they say.
And I think that was in a movie. That was like in Scream, right? Wasn't that when they were talking about like you can see it? Like,
I think so.
Yeah, but I think you can actually. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't have the 4K release or anything, but they have sex and it kind of bonds because there's been like weird sexual tension between them and him like being overly forceful with her, which is kind of like uncomfortable in certain scenes. Not in the 80s. It was fine. That was an acceptable level of.
That was the modus operandi in films like this.
Right.
The guy wears her down.
Right. And she apologizes for stopping the sexual act when he won't take his hand out of her pants.
Right.
You know, how things go.
Yeah.
In 80s movies. But they end up having consensual sex, and she says she loves him, and then she helps him get back into she makes a plea to the coach's wife to say, hey, Steph's not a bad guy, and your husband is fucking him over for some reason. Yeah. You got to help him out. And she's like, well, what do you want? And she's like, I want to study music, but I'm never going to get out of this town. And that's the only time we ever hear about that.
But yet she fixes all the problems.
Right. And she
this was just.
And so the wedding's over. They graduate high school. He's going to the job now. And Craig T. Nelson gets a job at Cal Poly. And now he feels shitty. Like there's a diner scene where Leah Thompson and Tom Cruise are eating together, and the coach.
No, it's just
Tom Cruise. It's just him by himself
because he's going to work. They were out at a party, and he had to then go to work. So he's like getting food before he goes to work.
So he goes over to the coach. He's all there by himself. He goes over to the coach's wife, and he talks to the wife. He's like, "Excuse me, sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry for being there at your house. I did not intend for that to happen." And then the coach comes out and is like, hey. Come talk to me. It's like, yeah, you got what you wanted. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. That was actually a pretty good scene. Actually, it's not and he's like, yeah, you're going to be gone. Fine, it's fine. I'm going to be part of this town. You fucked me over. I'm not going to give you any sort of just desserts, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to make you feel better, right? Yeah. Because you feel bad at this point because you fucked me. And then he goes to work and he meets Steph afterwards. She's still in high school. And then the coach is standing out there, and he's got a leather binder and a letter of intent that he wants Steph to sign to say, hey, I've got a spot for you. Come play for me out in Cal Poly. And it's a full ride to Cal Poly.
Which has a really good engineering school.
Has a really good engineering
Steph wants anyway.
And Steph's like, you're only doing this to make yourself feel better. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm only doing this to make yourself feel better. Just come play football with me and maybe go for the ball this next time rather than the man.
Ha, ha, ha.
He has a fucking letter of intent, and he needs Steph to sign right there.
He doesn't have a pen.
He doesn't have a goddamn pen. What?
He's the worst coach. He's the worst coach. He's not going to be there for very long.
He has to turn to his dad, who's been working in a mine. Why does he have a pen?
Right. He's got a nice ballpoint.
He's got a nice ballpoint pen that they sign. And then there's so Leah Thompson is like, I want you to, Steph. I want you to.
Don't worry about me.
Don't worry about me. I'm a silly girl who likes music. Maybe someday you'll remember me. Because she's like, whatever happened to that boy that the coach is like, I don't even have any idea where I went to NC State. Oh, you went to a college, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got out of town and went to school. Oh, so good for you.
Like the brother who was in Turk 182, which is Steph's brother, was in Turk 182. He was a fireman who gets hurt in Turk 182, and his father are all standing right there, and they're all hugging. And then Steph goes to hug Leah Thompson, or Tom Cruise goes to hug Leah Thompson, spins, and all of a sudden he is 200 yards away from his father and his dad.
I know.
I was like, I had to rewind it. Like, what the fuck just happened? So he has to get beyond the American pipe and steel sign so he can raise his hand up in the air and we can roll credits. But it was the weirdest thing. I was just like,
so weird.
Because I was like, where did they just disappeared? But no, they're just way back in the background now. Out of all of a sudden they're in the background. Look, I mean, this movie doesn't do a whole lot with football, to be honest. I mean, it's obviously bad,
but football here is a means to an end. It's like to do something bigger. I mean, and I think that's what I like about this film is that Tom Cruise is like, okay, here's the thing. I am a good enough football player, because this is what he tells Terry O'Quinn, right? He's like, I'm going to use you.
Right.
I'm a good enough football player to come, to get there. My grades are fine. They're not great, but they're okay. And then I'm going to go to school. I'm just using football to go to school.
Right. I don't want to play in the NFL.
I don't care. Right. He's like, I want to be this thing. That's it.
It's a weird 80s movie where aside from him kind of being mouthy and in the wrong place at the wrong time, he's not really, he has his head on his shoulders, weirdly enough. He's kind of goofy, and but a lot of that goofiness is played because he's a virgin. When she goes up to his room to have sex with him, and he's like, "That's my underground lair that I designed." Just like
I know.
That's the weirdest line in this movie.
It's so
like, why have that in there?
I don't know. Like you didn't need to.
I think that scene is actually really well done. I think that
Except for
scene.
that.
I think that. I mean, again, I'm not gonna lie. When I watched this the first time, I was really excited about seeing Leah Thompson naked. So, and I was surprised because here's the thing about that movie. And again, this is gonna sound really gross, but when she takes off her top, you don't see her head. And so I'm thinking, oh, well, that's clearly a body double. We're not seeing Leah Thompson's breasts. This is a cheat. You fucking movie-going assholes. I'm not seeing Leah Thompson
just like
naked.
Boobs, who cares, right? It's just boobs.
Right.
But no.
I need to know.
Yay for boobs.
And then you see her almost like you see her quite a bit naked. And you see her boobs out, so that's nice. When I was a kid, look, I know she's young in this movie, and I was young when I watched it.
Right.
I'm just right. I'm not being gross. I'm not like.
I understand.
If I was desiring to see Leah Thompson's boobs today, I'd want to see them as they are at the moment. I don't want to see.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. I gotcha.
And so, but I think that scene's really, as far as like sex, it does like when they go up to the point or whatever. And it's kind of like she is trying to get out of it and like trying to position herself to get away from this. And then the moment where she's like kind of taking control of it all, I think it's a really, like, again, I think this movie does some interesting things that really weren't being done in the 80s a lot. And this doesn't like really rely, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of kind of like silliness, but like a lot of the silliness really kind of attributes to high school students. So like when they're dancing and talking about sex in the locker room, it's just kind of dumb, right? I mean, it's just like, and then when they're talking about him going to SC and he needs to learn how to dance and like, it's just, and then there's that chubby kid in there that's kind of like, in his jock strap and like, I never understood guys who wore shoulder pads directly onto their skin.
No,
like
that's gross. Why would you do that?
Why would you ever do that?
Why would you? Ew, no.
It's just gonna rub in a not a good way.
It's not gonna feel good, right?
Wear a t-shirt underneath your shoulder pads, kids. Also, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I thought like, but I thought that some of that stuff, and then like the God created stuff.
Oh yeah,
was dumb,
very dumb.
But
I mean, but that's the kind of, but also that's sort of the mode of most of these films, right?
Right.
Like football is just like this thing, right? This thing to be praised and worshipped, and it's given us all this stuff, which is just ridiculous. But again, like they're high school kids, and he's drunk.
Right.
What the fuck, right?
Right.
I mean,
it seemed like, yeah, I would have thought, and so it's better than it being inauthentic. It's dumb and it's silly, but again, it's true to these characters.
Right.
And this one kind of falls along the lines of like where I think a lot of these, like, I think this is probably best. This is like Cruise's best like young role.
Right.
I do think he's good in Taps, but I mean, Taps is so like ridiculous as a movie just in general. And of course, he's the fucking crazy one as opposed to like Penn in that one, So like, and then all the rest of his like young stuff, aside from Risky Business, which again is kind of over the top.
Because he did this Risky Business. And like one more, like on the same year.
Would it have been?
Did he do Taps? Like
Taps would have been before this because I think Taps was either 81 or 82.
So he did. Oh, I'm sorry. So it's The Outsiders, Risky Business, All the Right Moves, all in 83.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
That's quite a resume.
I know. And then we get Legend, Top Gun, Color of Money, Cocktail.
That's when he went on his run. Like that was like. Yeah. Like Legend was the last thing that you don't remember him being in, right?
And then it's Top Gun. You're like, whoa. And then
right.
And then Vince, his best role, Vince.
Yeah,
he's amazing in The Color of Money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cocktail
sucks. Whatever.
The Cocktail just had again. You talk about movies. No. I'm just
absolutely.
Yeah,
no,
sucks.
But
like
right.
Well, it's got Elizabeth Shue, so it can't be terrible.
Well, no, of course.
But that was the last. Like there were so you talk about like movie songs and talking about like Jennifer Warren and fucking Kenny Loggins.
Oh yeah.
But like there were movies that were driven solely on their soundtrack.
That was one of
Contact, but like a Contact. Contact, that Jodie Foster film that was driven only on the song "Contact, My Love."
Wasn't that a Whitesnake song?
Yes. Cocktail was only the soundtrack, like that movie Buster with Phil Collins.
Yes,
it's like the gritty kind of love.
yes,
Like those movies that existed just to like. But I mean, and then there were ones like Dirty Dancing and Footloose. There were ones that like kind of just were all soundtrack driven, right? But I think but you can say that Dirty Dancing and Footloose are films worth being to watch. Cocktail was just, I'm got that Beach Boys song, so we're gonna go see the movie, right?
Right. Oh God, that terrible
that
fucking
hippie
song.
shake.
Oh,
Who sang
God.
that song? Was that wasn't Beach Boys? But anyway, whatever. That movie blows. Yeah, no, I like this movie. Like I said, but because I don't think it overstays its welcome. I do like it doesn't veer off too much. Like even like I liked the small town mobster stuff of it too, because there's just like it doesn't overplay its welcome and like I overstay its welcome. Like that guy doesn't give a shit about Steph. His boys beat him up because
he's running his mouth.
Right, he's running his mouth. Like, right, we're gonna
like, what are you gonna do? Right, yeah. But right, he has the right amount of time in that film. Right, that role is very small, but it's just the right size.
And I love that Tom Cruise's character's naivete of thinking that he would own up to being the guy in front of in the coach's house. Like I wasn't at the were you guys at the coach's house?
No,
you weren't at the coach's.
Must have just been you, right? Yeah. But again, like this high school kid in over his head with these guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And enough to like, are you getting tired of this Pollock pussy to like put him like to like really because he wants to fucking fuck him up a little bit, just a little bit, and he's old enough now that he can and get away with it. I think that character's really fucking good, actually. And he's not so over the top. Like you said, he stays just in the right spot and just as long as he needs to. He's like, where if you did something like in the 80s, that character turns into Porky's, right? I mean, it just turns into like this guy who's just like ridiculously gross and like groping. He gropes Leah Thompson. It's none of that. He's not interested in any of that. He's just interested in like, making sure that people know who he is and what kind of power he has.
But again, in a town of a certain size with such a reliance and reverence towards like high school football, you see those guys. You go to a game, you see those guys, right?
God.
I mean, but right. So that's, I mean, I think this film does have a level of authenticity. Like there are some parts where I'm just kind of like, okay, it's a little silly, but I also like, I think the honesty of Cruise and like these like teenagers, there seems to be a lot of like, honesty within those characters, right? I mean, Chris Penn sort of being like, what the fuck am I going to do? I don't know how to do anything else, right?
Right.
It's almost like a way out for him, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
what am I going to go do in Southern California?
I got what I
can't
wanted.
do it,
right? I got a kid.
Yeah.
I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
I hope it's a boy.
Right. I mean, I think what this film doesn't do is lean into giving Leah Thompson and the other women credit, right? Or allowing her to have a way out and not just be like, I'm really happy for you. You do this. I mean it. I want you to. And not give her the thing that she wants to, right? Not find a way for her to have a scholarship to go somewhere else across the country. That's fine. Like separate them. We don't care that they're together, right? But she did all the work, right? And so it's this kind of, like I said, like walks right up to this idea of feminism and then just kind of tiptoes away. Like, okay, never mind.
Right, because he doesn't really like ever really acknowledge her helping him at all. Right. He's going to be there for her. He loves her, but mainly because it's probably the first sex it is the first sex he's had, and that's a tie that they have together.
But she's also awesome.
She plays the sax, so... speaking of like those people exist. Like my youngest plays trumpet in a high school marching band, and so I am subjected to some of the worst high school football that the Dallas-Fort Worth area has to offer. And I'm not going to name a team because I don't want to belittle these kids. They try hard, etc.
Sure.
They are the bad news bears of Dallas-Fort Worth football. I've lost 16 straight, and
oh, nice.
They were playing a game recently where they were actually up 21-7, and then one of the kids gets hurt. And I don't know what happened to him, but it was long enough where they had to bring something. They brought a stretcher out, and I think it was a head thing. So I hope he's okay. But anyway, so once the game started again, it was like a 10 to 15 minute delay. Once the game started again, the opposing team scored a touchdown and scored another touchdown. But they missed the extra point, so it was 20-21. And this team has the ball in their own end of the field on their own 24. And they end up getting and there's like probably 6 minutes left. So enough time where like these is not the pros, right? So they're not going to like throw it up and down the field, right? But and the other team's kicker is not good. So I think that's the thought process is that we could pick up another yard and then run this clock out. But they go for it on their own 24 and they get stuffed. They throw a pass out to the flat and a defensive back reads it and stuffs the kid.
Sure. And
so they stopped him they don't get another first down, but the kid's able to punch a field goal through 23-21. And they end up losing the game. The problem, and I don't have a problem with kids losing games. I mean, obviously you go out there, you try. They were upset, but the people in the fucking crowd.
Oh, go crazy! They're nuts. Aren't
there's a guy that was sitting there yelling and screaming and cursing at these coaches about who's calling the fucking plays and fucking you guys. It's just like you're probably related to one of the players at some point. And I know it's upsetting, but have a little fucking perspective.
Right.
None of these kids are going to play big time college ball. None of them are, even if they do, they're not going to go pro. Just stop and have a little, and I know that your life has been tied up in this, and
it doesn't mean theirs.
I also know it's difficult to sit through losing games after losing games, but just be there to support your kids. Bring a book, because all they care about is that you're there. They can't hear you cheer. The coaches don't want to be cursed at, or they don't care about it. It's
so annoying.
There's one guy up in the stands when they play home games, or any game for that matter, and I have to find him and not sit next to him because every play that's against this team is a penalty.
Yeah.
So there's always a holding or
always right.
It's just I fucking hate, and that happens every fucking where. I hate people who can't just shut up and watch a game. I would rather just it to be a nice tennis clap, good catch and run. And it's okay for you to cheer, but fucking you do not need to commentate on the entire game when you're at the game.
It's
the worst.
And that is how I watch sports live. I'm very quiet. And it's tennis clap. I kind of mutter to myself, right?
Right. You'll jerk up you'll get as if you were on the field or whatever. You'll get tense and
yeah. I mean, I got season tickets to the new women's soccer team here in town, right? The Dallas Trinity Football Club, and I went to the first home game. I wasn't able to go to this one last week, but I went to the first home game, and my seat's really good, right? I'm right at midfield. I'm about 15 rows up in the fucking Cotton Bowl, which is weird, right?
Right.
But it's really good, and it's really good brand of football. They play well, and people around me are screaming and saying stuff, and I'm just kind of sitting on my knees, and I'm just really watching back and forth, and I'll just kind of mutter something occasionally, and this woman behind me is yelling about
kick it harder,
play the ball, and I'm just kind of and I'm just am I the only one not screaming?
Here's a hint: if you find yourself at a sporting event, they can't hear you. They can hear the general kind of, but they're pretty much zoned out.
Yeah,
but you don't need to tell them to
do something they know
to run faster. Most likely they're running as fast as they can, or they're kicking or throwing or doing whatever the things that you think that they should be doing differently. That's the best.
There's a
of their
reason
ability.
we're in the crowd, right? And not out there, especially at a higher level.
It's
okay.
Yeah, it used to be my favorite Dallas. It was when I was single, I and I very first moved to Dallas, and they weren't great at that time. They had just come off, but so they were kind of on the decline. I didn't have season tickets, but I just had a person who would sell me their tickets.
Yeah.
My favorite experience at the game was that they during halftime of one of the games, they were doing a baby crawl. And this is weird for the Cowboys to have this at halftime. It's weird that this happened, but again, I guess it was mid to late 90s, so it wasn't it just wasn't every halftime, every halftime was doing something, right? Anyway, we were sitting next to this group of people, and the babies were being announced. So this is a baby, you're going to let your baby go and it's going to crawl 10 yards.
Sure.
They announced a baby from Oklahoma. And this guy started booing.
You're booing a baby.
A baby. Just because it had the audacity to be born in a state northern to
stupid-ass kid who's born in Oklahoma. Right. All right, we got 2 more movies to get to. I don't know. I don't really want to talk about, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to talk about Wildcats.
All right, football.
All right. Molly McGrath always knew what she wanted.
Hey, you want to coach football? Fine, you got it. At Central High.
Her team, the Wildcats.
Ready to play, Coach.
Yeah?
Don't wear yourselves out.
You want to get rid of me?
Absolutely.
You're in training as of right now. Put that out. You think a woman can't be tough enough? Watch me. Forgot my purse.
Now, I don't intend to coach a bunch of losers.
How did your folks let you get like this? He probably ate his folks.
Your mama says you ugly. Hey! From here on out, I call the shot.
Tell us what to do.
Win, you turkey!
All right. Oh. How are you enjoying the game thus far?
You make this point and every girl in the free world will want you.
You're being humiliated out there. Get out of my face!
Goldie Hawn.
Are you sure I'm the right person for this job?
Wildcats. Football had it coming.
Rookie high school football coach Molly McGrath, Goldie Hawn, has a harder time than she expected trying to whip her tough inner city team members into shape.
Another movie that doesn't fuck around.
It doesn't. It just goes.
Right.
Yeah. It does not stop.
Right.
But I also think that's part of the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah. It's directed by Michael Ritchie and who he did a bunch of sports movies, but Bad News Bears, he did Downhill Racer, but also one of my favorite movies of all time, Fletch.
Yes.
So he's a solid but a wildly
kind of inconsistent.
Right. His director, his filmography is inconsistent and weird. It's just kind of all over the place. But we jump in. So this movie starts off with a Christmas Vacation type of montage where we get to see a lot of old family home videos where Goldie Hawn is being taught football by her father, and he has all
like
these
a famous football coach,
right? Yeah. And then we cut into where she's wearing a football uniform as a gag at this high school for the yearbook pictures, and she's coaching girls track, but she desperately wants to coach football. And she's also in the midst of a divorce, or she's been divorced,
and they
she's got
continuously
joint
share custody.
Right? With this kind of like your very stereotypical dad who's not in the picture of the '80s movies, where like he's got a hot new wife, Jan Hooks, by the way, and
Stacy Keach's brother also,
right? And he's got a convertible Mercedes. So he comes in and like she's a high school track coach. And he's got money, right? He comes in and takes the girl. He takes Robin Lively out again.
Yes.
And takes her and her sister out to.
He's kind of constantly like putting her down,
right?
In a very passive way. It's just kind of I mean, he's not abusive in that way, but he's just not very nice.
And our evil person here is Bruce Dern, who is the high school football coach of the high school where she's currently at. So there's a JV opening, and she says, "I want to coach JV football." And he's like, "Look," they're playing racquetball together, and he's like, "Look, I'm gonna go talk to the principal, and if he says okay, then you got the job." And of course, they fill the job underneath her
because she beat him at racquetball.
Because she beat the shit out of him in racquetball, right? And so he's like, "Hey, you're not going to coach JV. You're going to coach varsity at the worst high school in Chicago."
Wait, did you say Bruce Dern?
Isn't that Bruce Dern?
Bruce McGill.
Bruce McGill.
I was like, wait. Right. I was like,
not Bruce Dern.
It
would have been cool if it was
different.
Bruce Dern,
I know,
right?
It would have been a different movie.
Bruce McGill from.
I think he would have been really bad.
My favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Time Cop. Which it is. I'm not making that up. That's my favorite.
Was Bruce McGill in MacGyver, the TV show?
I think so.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
So she takes the job at this, and it's the principal is Nipsey Russell, and he is happy to see her. And she comes in, and none of the high school football players are excited that they have a female coach.
And you could tell they weren't excited. Because they
didn't have boners when they met her.
Because they didn't have pants on.
Right. She comes into the locker room and they all have their helmets over their dicks, and then they put them on as she comes in. And then they basically, call her names and say we won't play for you. And there's a few of them that will play for her, but this is a weird the timeline of this of her.
When did she have time to teach the one group plays to beat the other group?
Right. Yeah. We go in and they won't play for her, but they'll come to a scrimmage, and she teaches this really small group of kids these plays that she knows that she's got. So she's a football genius that no one's really given her a chance to do this. And then there's this one kid who's off in the background. But this team was 1-9 the previous year. Right. There's this one kid that named Bird who is kind of like a low-level criminal that's watching the team. He has a kind of a general interest in the team, but he's just always there. And so they still don't play for her at the scrimmage. They don't really give a shit that they're getting beaten.
Right.
And so she basically says, look, you want me off the team? And they're like, yes, we want you off the team. And she's like, fine. Well, then you can...
You forgot about the watch.
Oh, that's right.
Watch.
That's
she
right.
comes
that's
back
right.
the next day, right?
And
so
they trashed her.
Trullo, your guy who has walked on water, right? Like kind of...
We'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah. has knocked her over accidentally. She comes back the next day. They've trashed her office, and they've broken this stopwatch that her sister and kids had given her.
As a congratulations for getting the job.
And then she goes out, and she's like, okay, you guys want me to quit? And they're like, yeah. She's like, okay, so if you can outrun me, we're going to run laps around the track. And if you last longer than me, I will quit. But if I win, you have to play for me.
Yeah. And then she takes a bath.
Yeah,
that was actually before. She took a bath before, and then she ran around. Ran around. Yeah. Okay, so talk about the bathtub scene.
Okay.
Like, why is Goldie Hawn naked in this film?
I don't know, because she's Goldie Hawn. And not this has nothing to do with her, right? But the people making the film, like, oh, you have to be naked because everyone wants to like see you naked.
It does,
but there's no reason for it.
There's no reason for her to be in a bathtub.
No.
Like, and if she is in the bathtub, she can be covered by bubbles. This is the weirdest fucking scene.
I know. And the towel doesn't quite like cover what.
Right. I mean, she's essentially fully frontal. Like, I mean, yes, she's got her legs kind of crossed in the tub, but yeah, she's butt ass naked in this bathtub, right?
It's
yeah,
like,
and it's such a, and like her husband's staring at her,
ex-husband
staring at her. It's just a weird scene. Anyway, she goes and she outlasts all of them around the track. Wesley Snipes being the last one who can he's the last one. He's the last man standing, right? So I was trying to think about it. And so they play their first game and they end up losing. And then Woody Harrelson's like, hey, I'm not a great quarterback. This other guy, Bird's a great quarterback, so let Bird play. And Bird comes in and then they start winning, right? I mean, and then this movie like shows a bunch of plays that are happening, and then they'll cut and then show the actor that was supposed to be in that play.
Because they were not doing that thing.
Because none of the actors, which is weird to me because all these actors are relatively young. You'd feel like they could have filmed those scenes. Like, okay, so there's a scene specifically about Woody Harrelson where he becomes the slot back. And he gets a pitch out and runs the ball around.
And it's
not a white guy
nope.
even.
Nope.
He doesn't have a yellow face mask, and so he runs out and gets tackled, and then Woody Harrelson pops up, and she's like, "Yeah, you're my slot back," and he's like gives her a salute or whatever. Yeah. And then there's scenes with Wesley Snipes, who's an athletic guy.
No, he's not.
Is he not an athletic guy?
So like, I mean, all of the stuff in White Man Can't Jump, like none of that is
really. That's none of him either.
No, he's terrible.
I guess none of the stuff in Major League either. But he knows martial arts, doesn't he?
I guess, but like so you know how like how Vin Diesel runs bad?
Yeah,
there's like his arms in here. Wesley Snipes has like terrible. So I there's like no way that he was doing any of that. No, he's like a horrible basketball player.
And I can almost see for like the long passes and stuff. I could almost see where like you need, but then it's just so weird and obvious. Like
I know.
That you couldn't have filmed these guys.
No, I know.
Doing the athletic feats. They lose the first game and then they start winning all the other games. Bruce McGill's like, hey, you haven't played anybody yet. Wait till you play my team. And then this basically just kind of turns into like a domestic like issue, right?
Yes. Yeah.
She starts seeing success, so she celebrates with the team at her house. The team is uncouth.
Which is weird.
Right. Yeah. No one. I've never celebrated with the head coach. Right.
No.
And they didn't need that motivation. Why would they go? Like, who the hell knows where she's living? But they're not living. She's not living near that high school.
No.
At all.
So they're all driving over them.
Right. And then they so they keep winning. Her ex-husband keeps talking like he gets upset because the girls learn the word motherfucker, and
Robin Lively, hey homegirl.
Yeah, her performance is special. this movie doesn't do a lot of like inner city shit, which I think is good though. It doesn't do a lot of like the silly like bring it on type. These are I mean like the cheerleaders are clearly but it wasn't really, I mean it's just it's fine. It's not,
that's fine. I mean that's kind of
part and parcel.
I like
right?
that.
Right.
I mean
it's not played as a
and it's not played as a joke either. I mean
right.
it's like it's like this school has nothing. Right, so of course these are your cheerleaders, and they're just gonna talk shit about everybody. I mean, essentially, right?
Right. And then at one point, a smart kid in the school who's gigantic takes out Jesus Garcia, the farting player, that was the really. See, there's so many dumb things.
It's so because he likes to headbutt things.
He likes to headbutt things, and he can fart on command, or just and so like he farts all the time. He puts the fart in his into the movie rap. That's how bad. Like I don't understand a lot of the pseudo comic beats of this movie. Like it doesn't make any sense. And then like so the fat kid exists. Like Finch just exists to be fat, and he's this kid who's smart. So he's doing papers for all of the students.
But he's charging. He's kind of a hustler, right?
Right.
He's like, well, yeah.
And so he won't play unless he gets paid. And so she convinces them to like, so you took out one of my players, so now you owe. Goldie Hawn's like, you took out one of my players, so now you owe me, because like he didn't stop him from running his head into the thing.
Yeah, he kind of conned him into doing it.
Sure,
right?
He was like, I'll bet you $5. Yeah, he's like $5 if you can do this. But then he like sits on the sideline and lets people go through, and they trip him. It's a really dumb. It's dumb. And then like, and he's also sitting on the sideline eating full desserts. Like he had like cheesecakes and pies and like. I don't understand like why this movie decided to take that route of like pseudo low comedy here, because this movie could have just been like gung ho. Like I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like it's where there's no comedic highs or comedic lows. There's just funny things that happen. Like I mean, the things that happen with the kids and like. But ultimately, this movie's all building up to the showdown with Bruce McGill and his team, and like McGill's already kind of over the top and asshole-ish. Like, and then so that football game, like you don't really see a whole ton of football. They skip ahead. Like they play the first game, they lose. They play another game with Bird, they win, and then basically you get to the final.
See like the end of the games and
right. You see an end of the game, and like then you know that they're going to the city championships, and they're able to like get to the city championships and blah 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 whatever. And then like the games turn into this, Roman gladiator shit, like where like McGill's team is like kicking guys in the nuts and like stamping on hands, and like they're just fucking, I mean like none, what fucking bothers me just because they never let that shit fly.
I know.
Like, so why are you, I mean like some of the stuff like the kicking of the chalk in the guy's face maybe, but like you're not gonna be able to kick anybody in the guts or step on someone's groin.
There's stuff that happens in the pile.
Right.
Where you can't see hands. I mean, I had my ankle jacked pretty bad, like, in a pile up. But okay, sure. But like when you see some of these acts that are just, that you realize like that's never going to happen. Like, you haven't done this until now. Why don't do it?
Right. And so all the kids are, so basically what happens is while the football season's going on, Goldie Hawn and her ex are battling over the young girls. And Robin Lively gets drunk at a dance, and while Goldie Hawn is dancing with the players, and so Wesley Snipes and his girlfriend take her home, like safely take her home, and she calls her dad and is like, "I'm not gonna," like he's been trying to get her another
balls her out, yeah.
And he's trying to get her to take another job at an all-girls school so girls can go there and get away from this bad influence of inner city bullshit, right? And so that all comes to a head basically in court, and she's like, "Fine, I'll take the job." This is before the big championship game. I'll take the job. Next year I'll be at this, I'll teach female sports at this thing. And all the guys hear it. And they all come to the court and they're like, they fuck up her case anyway.
Right.
And M. Emmett Walsh is their lawyer. Another M. Emmett Walsh, Robin Lively, buddy comedy film.
Who knew that's the combo we needed?
Right. I know. I needed them to like have a kind of a 48 hours type of a movie together.
Robin Lively only has a 2-day pass out of jail.
Right. And then halfway through this is a typical best of times thing where they get their asses kicked the first half. There's a big emotional like, fuck it, I'm gonna take all my team out to the stands and tell my ex-husband to fuck off. I'm not taking the job, I'm staying. And he's perfectly okay with it. It's fine. Didn't he like? Of course, he was having a crisis of conscience at the court. Like that's his exuberance after the fact is kind of silly.
Yeah. But you can also sort of forgive that because everyone in the crowd hears it, and they're like, yeah, Frank, don't take the kids. Don't be an asshole, Frank. And he's kind of like, oh shit, okay. Yeah.
And then the players decide to play. They decide to step up. Now they get their coach back, and then they play. They're winning, and then Bruce McGill's team has this is where I hate this part. But Finch goes over to the other side and is like, hey, you're fucking up. You're getting he's basically saying like he's on the opposing team's sideline, and he's like, look, I can tell you, I can give you some hints, give you some pointers. You look stupid. And McGill's like, get the fuck off my sideline. And then what does he do? Like does he call him something?
Yeah, he calls him like a fat motherfucker. Right. He like really like tries to
right. And then so Finch tries to go over and get in the game, and decides that he's going to pay Goldie Hawn to get into the game. And so they're about to kick a field goal that will win them the game, and Finch is like, get in between. And so they snap the ball, and Finch flies. It literally like just jumps up in the air. That comedic beat is so fucking terrible.
It's so dumb.
And it's like you don't like you could have just had him push the guy into him, like why make it where it's so over the top stupid? It really like if you cut that scene, I mean, I know you have to figure out how to like make them miss the field goal, but you can have
someone else block it. I mean, that's not. I mean,
I don't even give a shit that Finch was in there. But the problem is that you get this guy who's 400 pounds who's then jumps 12, 15, 16 feet in the air, and that's the game. And then there's a whole. Then all of these movies end on walking out of the stadium.
You're right. All of them.
So Finch, they're all holding up Goldie Hawn, and like they've won the city championship, and we're gonna go undefeated next year, right, coach? And McGill gets all shitty, he's like trying to reach his hand in the Finch's pants to
find money
that Goldie Hawn paid him, and then of course he like weirdly shits on his own players and then falls in the mud. Like, it's just, come on, god damn.
I like the McGill tells one kid, he's like, check his jockstrap. If you don't do it, I'm off the team. He's like, I'm a senior anyway. I don't care. Yeah, I find this film to be really uneven. Yeah, and like we don't spend any time with these characters. I mean, like I want to care about Wesley Snipes' character, right? I want to be like, oh, this idea of them taking the young girl home, that seems out of step with everything we've kind of seen before. This is interesting, but we don't get to know anything about anybody, and like we just they're all sort of like shadows of characters rather than.
And you've got like the beginnings of White Men Can't Jump here. This is the first Wesley and Woody movie.
Isn't this like their first roles?
I think so. Yeah. Or pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got characters on this on the screen that are worth sticking around.
That's what I mean.
Finding out about, right? Yeah.
We don't even get very much of Bird.
No, not really.
Bubba Gump.
And it's like I said, it's wildly uneven. And I feel like it's revered in a way that is not deserved.
Yeah. No, not at all. This movie reminds me a little bit of Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like we get to know those characters more. And that then it pays off when the one guy gets arrested. Right. It turns out that he's hiding from like the law. But I mean, like, we get none of that because I was sitting here watching this. I'm like, doesn't one of these guys get like arrested? I'm like, oh no, wait, that was. But that would have been, I think, something more interesting to happen.
This is a movie that desperately needs a remake.
Yeah,
that needs and not to make it some feminist power broker movie, but to make it to remove its flaws, remove its faults here.
Right. But again, another movie that sort of tries to do this feminist thing, and it's kind of like, but kind of like
right,
sort of like keep it at arm's length. Yeah,
right. At the end of the day, it's still, it doesn't ever really acknowledge anything, right? It's
right, like nothing. Yeah.
So does this movie influence the Super Bowl Shuffle?
Oh, because of
the rap at the end?
LL Cool J's terrible song?
LL Cool J's terrible song. But like, okay,
I guess, yeah.
All of them have their own
beats.
This comes out, this is set in Chicago. comes out
It's a
well
few years
before
yeah,
before the Super Bowl Shuffle. And the Super Bowl Shuffle is essentially the same thing.
You're right. Wow.
It's crazy.
So this is the reason that Wildcats should never be remade. Because what you're saying is it's perfect as it is because we end with the Sport of Kings.
Better than Diamond Rings. Yeah, and LL has a new album out, folks. So,
and I still haven't listened to it. I'm not sure I'm going to. But
the song with Eminem is actually pretty good. It's a little uneven, but it's something that's it's very different than anything he's done before. We had this conversation, and I know we're like about LL, like, and why he was able to like kind of make a name for himself in early hip hop. I can only imagine it was because he was the only guy at the time singing like rap ballads or songs that involved sex that weren't like totally misogynistic.
What was his first rap ballad? I'm curious because I'm trying to remember what was on.
I Need Love.
Was
Maybe?
that on what record was that on?
I'm Bad.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was on Bad?
Yeah. There's nothing on radio. There's nothing on radio.
Right. Okay, so it was on.
Right, but it was on. But radio wasn't. I'm Bad's what kind of put him on.
No, I know.
Right.
I know. But like, I mean, because I forget about that song so often.
And then he goes into like Around the Way Girl and You Jingling Baby,
right?
And I Need Love and Doing It and like so like
doing it.
Right.
So okay, maybe. Because, I mean, his early stuff wasn't that different. I mean, there's a reason that he and Kumo D had a beef, right? Because they were pretty similar, like what they were doing.
But Kumo D's beats were way fucking better.
Oh, no, I'm a Kumo D guy. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I think something happened there where LL ascended and Kumo D did not. I'm a How You Like Me Now over like anything that Cool J did.
I think Cool J doesn't get interesting until Mama Said Knock You Out. Like I think that album is he doesn't do anything lyrically or like beat wise or song wise at all in those first two albums, aside from maybe I Need Love. But like
I'm going back to Cali.
That's not him though, right? Is that where is I'm okay, no, I'm thinking okay, it is him, but where is that out? Isn't that on Mama Said Knock You Out?
I thought that was before.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't know where that is though. Anyway, okay, that's probably his best song then up until that point.
But because that was something different.
Right.
That was something that was so kind of sparse and like kind of weird.
Yeah.
And avant-garde-ish in a weird way.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, and I will say I'm not a huge LL fan. And I did mainly because I don't think his acting career is that great. But like, but I will say that like the unplugged version of Mama Said Knock You Out is one of the best things I've ever seen on that program. Like aside from the Nirvana whole thing, but like that was a really, really cool like performance of that song.
Too bad that's not around anymore.
I know.
Unplugged.
Right. Yeah.
Because we got Alice in Chains too, and
no more
the Unplugged and
Porno for Pyros or Jane's Addiction.
Right.
Perry Farrell. When Dave Navarro is the guy that's like keeping like is like putting out the message of like
Perry can take a swing, but he can't hit.
Like why would I get why they put out the statement, but like you can't be afraid of Perry Farrell, right?
No, but I don't think Navarro was. I think Navarro was like, what is wrong? What is going on?
Right.
And you see even Navarro's guitar tech, step in, calm things down, and then Eric Avery, the bass player, put Perry in a headlock and punched him 3 times. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? There's no reason to do that. But I think things. I mean, I don't know. I read a little bit about like what was going on, and or at least part of it.
Did they play Stonehenge that night?
You mean at Stonehenge?
No.
It was a joke.
Yes.
Okay.
It was a Pink Floyd.
You know what? Let's talk about the program. I know we've been avoiding this, I can sum it up with just ugh.
Coming soon on video cassette.
Go 13!
Most of my players are farm boys, or they're from the inner cities.
Hey!
Football is their deliverance.
From different worlds.
When I turn pro, I'm gonna get you the house to go with it.
From different lives.
Welcome to college.
They've come to pursue a dream.
Any football program worth its name. Elite group of warriors.
I'm gonna bust your gut open and watch you die!
Talent unites them.
You gonna lead us to the promised land? Question is, can you boys follow me?
Competition divides them.
Darnell Jefferson, tailback. Ray Griffin, starting tailback. Yeah, I know. That's why they recruited me.
Hey, don't tell me you're falling for this guy. He's nothing. He's just another gangbanger with speed. Pressure surrounds them.
You play that second half the way you did the first. This is what the rest of your season's gonna look like.
Thought we might take a little ride.
We go slow, no cowboy stuff.
And one man stands by them.
I'm never gonna play again, am I?
Even when they fall.
Look at me, boy. We need you.
We're gonna ring that championship bell!
Touchstone Pictures and the Samuel Goldwyn Company present a story of what it takes.
Get it up! Come on, man!
To fight the pressure, face the pain, and survive the program. Rated R.
So, the program. Several players from different backgrounds try to cope with the pressures of playing football at a major university. Each deals with the pressure differently. Some turn to drinking, others to drugs, and some to studying.
Look, this was a huge fucking movie.
I know. That's why I
it-
said, like, high school me was like, yo, this is great.
Yeah,
That's exactly how I said it, too.
and like to that end, the fucking Latimer character influenced so many douchebags.
Oh, of course.
So many douchebags.
So bad. Let me paint my face.
This movie's fucking terrible.
So it's awful.
It's so bad.
And we have these archetypes who are just stereotypes. They're just cardboard, right?
And it could have been great.
Right, because it's like, I feel like it's trying to explore something that actually is worth exploring, but not this way.
Right. It is the higher learning of college football program of college football movies because it's everything is so surface and tangential and like it doesn't like none of it's just they just gloss over
None
everything.
of it none of it actually like matters, right? Also, is everyone in a different movie?
Oh, 100%.
Every actor is in they're in their own film. These guys are not together. They're not doing the same movie, right? James Caan, I don't know what James Caan is doing.
They must have just driven a fucking Brinks truck to his house and said, "Here, you know what Nick Nolte did for basketball, you can do for football, kid."
Didn't Shelton write Blue Chips too?
Yes. He did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah. But I mean, this is very much like Blue Chips.
But at least
football.
Blue Chips was specific about the recruiting violations. I mean, like
Right.
it was like. See, this doesn't talk about that at all. Which you'd think that it. Well, I mean, it touches on it a little bit with the booster dinner afterwards, but I mean, it's like glossed over.
Right. Everything is glossed over.
I mean, yeah. These kids not getting an education, the alcoholism, the
steroid use,
the steroid use, the sexual assault, all of it. Like, and again, none of this shit would have ever fucking happened this way either.
Right.
Like, so it starts out not bad, right? But again, like you don't do enough to when you're recruiting Darnell. You don't do enough to show his situation. Like and you don't do enough to show, like, I think one of the things that was kind of interesting, right, is that they, when he gets to campus the first time, the cheerleaders are there, they bring him to the stadium and they show him.
Yeah.
That's real, right? I mean,
right.
Like
all those recruiting tools.
When you get there and no one gives a fuck about you, right?
The next thing.
And that's what the program really should have done is focused on Darnell's story. It should have just been this freshman kid trying to find his way.
Yeah.
And then being thrown in with adults really at that point. I mean, like, because you do go into a situation where you're 18, but you're also hanging out with 21, 22-year-olds that are like, can manipulate you and to like,
right.
and you look up to and
he's conscious about getting an education.
Right. Because he's got people back home that are counting on him.
But he's also like not really worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he finally, gets Halle Berry to tutor him and he just kind of blows it off. Like everything he does, like it doesn't.
Right. And then it posits that none of these guys are doing anything in school whatsoever and can't pass their placement exams. The scene where, is it Mack, the linebacker?
Yeah, Alvin Mack.
Yeah. Is like, that where he can't read and he can't do his tests and he won't study, but he knows like all of the plays and it's just like kill the quarterback, kill the tight end, kill everybody.
Right. If they do this, I do this. Right. He knows all of that.
Also, if Cohen was really a coach, kill everybody is not a good strategy for football.
No.
Like you can't kill everybody
or life.
Right.
I mean, you're only one guy, so
that's the thing. Is this is a team sport. You're only one guy. Also, if Latimer only put on 35 pounds between the end of the in the off season, he was still a jacked motherfucker.
I was gonna say
he put on like 60 to 70 pounds.
He was still
of muscle.
a big dude, right?
Right. Also, look, that guy was born to play henchman. Yes. And that guy is not a good actor.
No.
So you cannot.
When he is delivering his like what football means to me speech, oh my God, so bad.
Right. And also, if he was a special teams guy, there's no way there's no way those guys that like are okay with him. Like they're not friends with him.
Right.
They're not like, if he was a special teams guy who was like on the only the punt return team, those guys don't give a fuck about. Mac doesn't even know who he is.
They might.
Maybe, I guess they were friends, but I mean,
if they came in at the same time, and if something, but of course we know
for a program like this,
we have no backstory on those guys, which again is like makes no sense that we have all of these. No, I get that, but wait, but who was the punter who was charged with statutory rape? But he was like friends with all these other like high-end football players. So I'm just saying, like, sometimes I think
so it could happen. Okay.
A bunch of fucking lowlifes, right? But I mean,
but also,
I forget the guy's name, but he ended up being like,
they all know he was a roid head too. They'd all just be like, fuck that guy.
Right.
And they wouldn't put up with like. Here's the thing, and this is, I guess, my point being, they might be friends with him. There's no way he's a leader on that team.
No.
And like, so now he's going out
just
and
all
like,
of a sudden,
like he didn't know he was making the starting roster, and this is not a fucking play. This is not how you learn. Like they don't put up a roster sheet and then you learn. I made first team.
I know.
Go fuck yourself. I got Pippen. This is not how that fucking works. You'd know if you were first fucking team.
Pippen.
And so he reads his name on a depth chart, and then goes out and smashes cars, which are ostensibly the players' cars.
I know. Yeah.
And so like they wouldn't put up with that shit either. And also his like dramatics in the weight room and him like clean pressing 315 pounds. Like
so over the top.
It's all and there's only 3 coaches on this team, which is dumb. There's an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the head coach, and they all seemingly.
And the head coach is not doing all the stuff he's doing on the sideline. That's not that's not how this works.
Right. And this is so clearly based on, like, I don't understand.
It's Florida State.
It's Florida State. Yeah. It was because this was when Florida State was good, but not good enough to like make that. Like this is where they'd be right in the ESU ballpark essentially.
Right. But they were always a story.
Right.
You had Bobby Bowden was a big.
And I understand, like, I guess why a school wouldn't want to be associated. But then you got Michigan. Like every other school they play is real.
I know.
Which is like, why wouldn't you do what like. The fucking, God damn it, what's the fucking North Texas film? Necessary Roughness. Like, why wouldn't you just make up school names, right? I mean, like
for everyone,
right? Yeah. Michigan,
ESU's playing Central today.
Yeah, Michigan Tech or some shit. Like, I mean, like it doesn't. You can use, and then I don't know. It's kind of dumb to do all that shit. Also, like it's weird. The way, of course, this is 93 too, so it's weird that they'd still be able to make a major college bowl like based on the number of losses they had, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But whatever. Right. Okay, I can let that go.
Because 93, it would have been just AP and voting. Yeah.
Right. You would have just gone to bowl games if you won your conference championship. Right.
No matter what. Or you would have been invited to a lower bowl like the Chick-fil-A bowl.
So Darnell gets recruited. They need a running back. He comes into school, and of course, no one gives a shit about him. There's also a lineman with the worst haircut on the possible planet. Yes. And then you've got Joe Kane, who's we'll get to the Berman analysis here in a minute.
Jesus Christ.
We got Joe Kane, who is the Heisman hopeful. He's a junior level quarterback with a Heisman hopeful, but he's got an alcohol problem. You've got Latimer, who's the linebacker who is, or defensive lineman who is jacked up on steroids. And then you've got Alvin Mack, who is the All-American linebacker who's
destined for the pros.
Destined for the pros. He's just going to be a beast wherever he goes. There's so much shit about this, like the football in this. None of it's real, right? I mean, obviously that happened. Obviously, I know that it's not real, but like they don't play it ever as real.
No,
right? Every fucking hit is a bone crushing hit.
I know.
Every play, someone's getting that, and like for a movie called The Program, like even the techniques that they have, like when Kubiak is blocking. He's like pushing on the guy's fucking head, and it's like this is not. That's not. Like, it's all dumb,
right? I mean, they're almost like throwing punches,
right? And so Latimer's bullshit about face paint, and then Mac's bullshit about calling out people on the field and like insulting the people, but you know, and like that's going to be some sort of intimidate. No one does that shit. No one in the history of ever has ever fucking done. And if you did, your teammates would tell you to shut the fuck up.
Right.
And also you just be laughed off the fucking field. So like, I know that this is a movie, but like for anybody who wanted any sort of like realism in this, and like into like when you're showing yourself that you are the movie about football, you know nothing.
Yeah.
About football.
And the in-game like voiceover things,
right,
was so dumb.
Yes,
so dumb, right?
Yeah.
Darnell's running and he's like, "Oh, see ya," and you're like,
right? No
what?
one says
like,
that.
Well,
shit
no,
either,
but like
right?
also like that is why is this in there?
Right.
It's not good. It's not effective. It just feels so false. Okay, we got to go back in there, right? And sort of like,
so throughout the season, Kane ends up drunk driving and punching a guy after a Michigan loss because he was staring at some guy's girlfriend, and ends up he has to go to rehab, so he loses his Heisman options and has to sit out 4 games. The backup quarterback has the coach's daughter taking a test for him, so he has to leave the team. Latimer
but
nearly
they bring him back,
right? In a great Joey Lauren Adams role. Could have used a lot more of her.
Yeah.
Latimer sexually assaults a girl, nearly rapes her and kills her essentially, and until people have to pull him off of her. And he gets suspended for 3 games and has to get off the steroids because it's steroid rage that's causing him to be a dick, not just him being a dick himself. And so, you know, their season goes into the shitter, and of course they still have a chance. So when push comes to shove, the game before the last game, Mac gets his leg crushed. Weirdly, it didn't even look at that was that bad of a hit, but he gets his leg broken.
I know.
And like, I don't know, I've never understood that either. Like, he got his leg broken, and yeah, it looked bad, but people come back from leg breaks all the time. Like, I don't know why you thought that he wouldn't be able to rehab that.
Right.
But I mean, like, that's the fucking movie, right? It's just everything is like is black and fucking white.
We don't really even get like, no one says like, oh, you completely destroyed this, and this.
Right.
It's like none of that. It's just like he's in the hospital with a broken leg.
Even in Varsity Blues, you get that Lance Harbor has been hiding a knee injury, or that the coach Kilmer has been fucking loading his knee up,
right?
And that's what's caused him to never being able to like heal properly. In this, it's like Khan is weirdly the only guy of reason in this movie, right? I mean, like he looks out for the guys that he needs to look out for, but he's never painted like there's this clearly needs a coach enemy, like a bad guy here, and he's just the guy who like has to deal with all these kids and play football, and he's worried about his 12th season and like how he might lose his job on his 12th. Look, at that point, why would you give a shit? Like, you've made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Even in 93, you would have been the highest paid state program employee. Like, why would you have given 2 fucks about losing your job?
And you're going to go find another job anyway, because that's how this works. I mean, it's like a merry-go-round.
This movie, everything it's so fucking cliche. And then of course you don't even talk about like Halle Berry or like the tutor role, because she's such a non-character. Like,
I know.
And like, why? That's the higher learning part of it too. Like, why do you have her in there? She does nothing other than encourage Darnell to study. Like, but here's the rub.
She goes ice skating.
Here's the rub. Like, why? There's so many things in here that this film is trying to do. Like, why bring up? Like, why focus on that? Because you know that's the. I mean, like, it doesn't matter that he aces his placement test before he's even in college, like, and he can one up her dad that way that he can show that he's good enough to sleep with his daughter. I guess,
yeah,
and that he's not sleeping with the doctoral candidate.
But
again.
it's like he's going to medical
school, right?
Those are different types of doctors.
It's all the same. Right? It's all the same.
You're right. They can all diagnose tonsillitis.
It's like Dr. Mario, Dr. Detroit, and then my whatever.
Yeah, and then your
periodontist.
Yeah. Like, why not make this Love and Basketball, but in football?
Right.
I mean, you got Omar Epps.
Right.
He knows how to do this.
Right
there.
He
knows how to do this. No, but like,
he's wearing the exact same costume.
You're right. He is. It's the same wardrobe.
Right.
Why not focus on that story, right? And then everyone else, right? They don't have to be as developed as they should be now.
Right. I don't know. I hate to say that Any Given Sunday does this well, but like at least Any Given Sunday is focused enough to focus on Willie Beeman, right?
Right.
I mean, yes, you get you get what's his name, the linebacker from the Giants, Lawrence Taylor's story, right? Yeah. But I mean, it's tangential, right? I mean, you know he has to make a certain number of sacks so he can get that bonus so he can retire, right? And you also have Dennis Quaid's section. But really, this is Willie Beeman's story, right?
Yeah.
And so it's fine that you can go off occasionally, but you still come back and you still focus on this.
Right.
This movie is just fucking awful. The football sucks.
It's bad.
It's it's the worst kind too, because like you never know what's going on in the game. It's just
no idea.
It's just people running and banging into one another.
And like these point of view through face masks.
right. And it's the most it's the most unrealistic football scenes you can possibly put together. And this movie's really only notorious for the scene that gets cut, right? I mean, like there's a scene that made it to like Australian DVD and Hong Kong Laserdisc, but it was in the theatrical cut for a little bit, and then they cut it because once Kane finds out in the bar that he is a Heisman candidate, and he didn't know that was happening at the beginning. He all goes out and like to show how he can deal with pressure. He goes and lays down on this highway. He lays in the middle of this highway,
right?
And his teammates are like all freaking out at first, and then they're like, "Oh, well, fuck it, we'll do it too."
Yeah.
And so all of them are on this highway while these cars are driving past them. They're laying in the middle lane, and of course, it led to real life injuries and deaths since they cut it from the movie.
Fucking people.
I know.
Like why?
But.
We are not as smart, like people.
No, as a society, no. But you're right. I saw this in college, and I knew it was shit then, but it was like I said, there are guys that are fucking Latimers. I will give you that. There are guys that and that whole. Like you get the wrong point from this movie that this movie's trying, and that's why it's higher learning, right? It tells you it's trying to tell you something. Or at least it thinks it's trying to tell you something, and it's not telling you anything. And so what you take away from it is that I don't give a shit about studying. I can just kill everybody and read defenses or read offensive formations, and that'll get me through.
That's real education.
Right.
That's real knowledge.
And as long as I'm banging the girl who recruited me, and then I can come out here and
she'll do my test for me.
She'll do my test for me. Oh. Gosh, Joey Lauren Adams is so cute.
Oh, as a button.
Yeah.
Just
put her in your pocket.
She just like looks up. What's your name? Bobby Collins? Can I see your ID? Yeah.
And also, like, this is such a stupid fucking movie because, like, all of these people are all so different, right? They're all caricatures of like.
No, that's what I mean, right? They're caricatures of stereotypes.
Right.
How are you going to make a coherent film like when you can't? When you have these vastly wide, you got to have a center point, right? You got to have a sort of focus or a heart. And I think clearly, like we said, that's Darnell. But we can't. We got to do all of this stuff, and we got to have Buffy in there as well. We got to have Christy Swanson in there. We haven't even talked about her, right? Who's working out in denim shorts after just having had knee surgery. Oh, but just arthroscopic. I love how they throw around arthroscopic surgery, right? Oh, I had my knee scoped too, and it's like, oh, okay, but like what? Like what? So was it torn meniscus? You just had. I mean, like what was it? How bad is it? Not bad enough that you can go out and play tennis.
Right. Just
really,
just with a knee brace.
Like, just with the knee brace. So, I mean,
Right.
This was pre-Challengers though, so.
And he's working out in street clothes too for some
It's
reason.
so weird.
Like it's
so
but
weird.
her workout is the weirdest because she's in jorts.
Right.
And like doing what appears to be. It's not a normal leg extension
No.
machine.
But that makes no.
I mean, I know she's doing rehab machine, but I mean, it's still like but like why that machine wouldn't be on the floor of a gym? I mean, it'd be in a big.
Depends on where they are.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I'm with you. Like, I mean, is it like the college rec center? Because it would be there.
Yeah, maybe.
It probably wouldn't be in.
But the football team wouldn't be working out in the college. That's the other thing.
That's what I mean,
like,
right?
Right?
Yeah, I know. So she's like, well, I had to wait. And it's like probably not the same.
But good
facility.
God, she is given nothing to do.
Nothing.
She only exists to prop up a male quarterback who has the worst hairline for a 21-year-old I've ever seen.
That cat does not look 21.
No.
What is he, like 40 in this?
Oh, and his stupid fucking family. Like his he never came to see me. Never once he came to see you play.
Like ever?
Like he won't want. He like hates you so much.
But
he won't watch.
like so none of that gets developed anyway.
No.
So who knows? I mean, but
Right.
but how can it get developed when you're trying to do 17,000 things in a 2-hour movie? That's not good to begin with.
Right.
It's called the program.
Yeah.
Can we stop?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can
okay.
stop.
Okay. Well, that was our football episode.
But we didn't talk. Well,
what?
We didn't talk about Latimer's redemption either. So Latimer has to get off steroids. I wanted to mention that because that last part where he has to like, because there is that moment where Cohen goes, "All I want to see is snot bubbles," and that happens.
Yeah.
And then Latimer like has to get off steroids, and he gets run over. He gets trucked in one game, and he has to go back to steroids. And so that was the big scene. That was the other notable scene for like dudes.
Yeah.
So Latimer gets, he's on steroids, but he needs to have a clean piss test. So he has the dirty urine extracted from his bladder through a catheter,
right.
and then clean urine put back in, which wouldn't work.
That's not how this works. Right?
I mean, like it would, but as soon as he takes a piss, he's done. And also, if he generates more piss,
I was gonna say,
he's also done.
Because I mean, like waste, right? I mean, that's not
right. Also, I don't know if in '93 they had an immediate steroid test. Like he like takes it right before the game.
I know.
I don't think that he would have known necessarily. He paints himself up as a ghost. Like and then or like a skeleton, then he goes on and he can stop him, but then the coach looks in his eyes and he's on a roid rage. You can see his steroids in his eyes,
in his soul,
and then like
he sees it in his soul.
He's like, why is Latimer?
Why is he crying at the end?
At the end, I think is it because he's embarrassed and he knows he? I mean, like
so.
he can't do this without steroids.
I think so.
But even so,
or he let the coach down.
He's still going to the pros,
or
like,
he's on roid rage and he's sad.
I mean, the pros aren't going to give a shit about steroids in this case.
They'll be like, yes, absolutely.
please do all the steroids.
Yeah. And here's some more.
Right, here's some better ones that we won't get caught with.
Right. Because clearly you're a badass on steroids. That's all we care about.
That's all we care about. Now you're a gigantic douche psychopath. No, maybe not. But again,
whatever. But you're not in college anymore, so
but, that's worth a 4th round pick for sure. We'll take a chance.
Absolutely. They're going to take a flyer on that guy.
Also, because Mac now, who was he was a 1st round pick coming out. He's not going to get taken.
He was a top 10 pick.
Yeah. And now, who knows?
Especially in the 90s with linebackers.
Oh, yeah, it would have been huge.
Yeah.
All of the things, like, I don't know how, and I forget how you say his last name, Andrew Bernarski or whatever, how he said any of those lines with a straight face. Like, all of them were fucking ridiculous.
They were so bad. The script sucks, man.
Yeah.
Like all of this, I don't know. That script must have been a mess. Just all over the place.
I mean, and it's kind of evident, right? Because you don't really get anybody to play these roles. Like in '93, none of these people are people except for Omar Epps.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's like, and Jimmy Kahn.
And Halle Berry, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so they did get some people
right, but
be in this film.
But Kahn and Berry are background players. Like Sheffer's not somebody you're relying on to I mean, like you couldn't get some other golden boy to play somebody in '93, and like the line. I mean, like
Brad Pitt.
Now again, I know you need like get Michael Jai White to play Alvin Mack, and I mean, like there's.
Well, but that guy, the guy that played, wasn't he in? Was he in Digstown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the brother who knocks out Bruce Dern, McGill, in Digstown. Yes.
So he's been in a bunch of. I feel like he's been in that role.
Well, and so is Andrew. I mean, Andrew's been in like a bunch of stuff, but he's also like he was in Any Given Sunday as well. You just need a jacked up dude. Those guys are going to be the jacked up dudes.
Right. That's
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie blows.
No, it sucks.
And it's weird because, again, it has the highest IMDb rating of all of these films.
And it's got like decent critic ratings. That's messed up. People are dumb.
I don't know why this would. And this is because, again, it's not saying anything. I mean, like if you could equate it to Higher Learning, which I have, but
just a couple times.
But Higher Learning, at least I could kind of understand Higher Learning getting good reviews. Because there's bits and pieces in there. There's little nuggets of truth you could probably pull out. This is fucking fluff. It's the worst of worst. It's just like as far as sports movies goes, there's no hero's journey here. Even there's no one who learns a lesson.
There's barely any sports.
Right, right, and that's the other thing too, right? You don't take Friday Night Lights for example, which I know is a really good example of all this, right? I mean, it's also got a good story behind it, but like. You progress through the season. Why don't you progress through their season? Why do you take Kane and put him in rehab? Like, why do you? Because that's never going to fucking happen.
No.
Like, he'd either just get arrested. Like, here's the thing. If this, if this was a program that was, and we see this shit all the fucking time. Take Baylor, for example.
Right.
If this was a program that was a program in this small little shit-eaten town or wherever, it doesn't even matter, they would have brushed that shit up under the rug. A fucking drunk driving.
Or it would have been a fine.
Right. A drunk driving and a punch to somebody, to some guy, wouldn't even made the fucking news wire.
There are people in that bar who are like, yeah, but that guy started it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There'd be boosters.
Okay.
They'd be like, yeah. And
we'll take care of it.
And there'd be some local judge that would make sure, there's no fucking way. Like I said, there's all kinds of shit you can do here. And this movie does none of it. But like I said, you should have followed this team every single game. You should have followed the ups and downs, which is again what you do in Any Given Sunday. Which Any Given Sunday, it's not a good movie, but it's what this should have been.
Right.
I mean, it's what this should have been. I mean, toning it down a bit. Obviously, you don't need all the Cameron Diaz horse shit and like the fucking Anne Margaret horse shit and all that kind of stuff.
We only need the Cameron Diaz horse shit in Vanilla Sky.
Right.
That's the only time we need the Cameron Diaz horse shit.
When you swallow someone's cum, that's a contract you make.
That's what I mean.
I'm going to use the opportunity to say that as many times as we can on this podcast.
I know, and I'm going to try and set you up.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kurt Russell, right?
Yes.
I mean, he was good in Vanilla Sky, right?
He's good in everything.
That's what I mean, right?
Why
not have more roles like that too? Those kind of like small roles where he's like just kind of great.
Maybe he just didn't need him. Like it's a certain.
He doesn't need anything. I mean,
right.
What does that man want for?
Right? I know. I mean, like it's aside like his God-given hair is a reward enough, right? And maybe it's better that he didn't have the career that we were saying he should, because it could have been too much. I don't know if we were
us,
right? I don't know if we were able to handle it.
No, you're probably right. We would not be able to.
Like and also like a fucking just an amazing beard too.
I
like
know.
McCready's got an amazing beard.
I know.
Like the fucking there's never been a better head of hair than on McCready in The Thing.
Yeah.
Like with that fucking and flowing locks and that beard. God damn.
And playing chess with the computer. Man, my kind of guy.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's enough. That's enough of this shit. That's enough of these football movies.
Did we already talk Speak No Evil?
Fuck that movie too. I think we're going to get into some things that will be more enjoyable.
I certainly hope so.
We're going to dive into Kelly Reichardt, her filmography, which I'm very excited to revisit.
Me too.
And dive into and
go
be
listen
sad.
To some Will Oldham albums and like
right.
Bonnie Prince Billy
and just be like, oh, that guy. I forgot he trained as an actor first, and then was like, oh, let's go do this. And it's like, fuck you for being able to do
whatever
these
you
things,
want.
right? Yeah.
To be artistic and what have you.
And just all the time.
And we'll talk other new movies as they come out that anger us or enlighten and enjoy us.
Enjoy us. Because they do enjoy when we go to the films. They're like, oh, those guys.
We still need to talk the
They don't know our
substance,
names.
and we still need to talk Strange Darlings.
I know.
Or Strange Darling.
Well, strange darlings, aren't we, sweetheart? Okay, Jason, anything else?
No, I'm good, man.
All right, well, until next time, thank you all for listening.
And keep screaming on 4 this time.
You have Steve Van Buren and Otto Graham. Johnny Unitas had the arm of a Superman. We had Charlie Trippy and Gino Marquette. If you're searching for a champion, they're your best bet. Which I could quarterback like Johnny Lou Jack or even Sid Luckman, as a matter of fact. Do you remember Red Brains, the galloping ghost? He could do a 95 running coast to coast. You had Norm Van Brocklin, a real great player, so swift with his moves that he could be mayor. Y.A. Tittle, Allie Madison, hey, I remember all those guys from back in the days. It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. That's why we're here to sing football. Sunday.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time.